Throners Podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We're the Morning Throners. We got John, one on our hands.
Let's go, my dude, John.
We're going north of the wall, boys. But not,
you guys,
not yet. We're not going there yet.
Yeah.
Is it a cock tease? I kind of set it up at the end of the last episode that I were like, are you ready, Kyle? We're going north of the wall.
And then,
I knew full well
we're not north
last
of the
night,
wall.
this dickhead goes, oh man, next chapter, it's a banger. It's one of the best ones yet. And
I
then,
do like it. I do think it is one of the
I know,
best.
but I was like, oh, it's them in the wilderness, you know, like north of the wall. And takes place in...
You think this is one of the best chapters?
So far, for sure.
Right?
I don't think it is.
Oh, in this book. Okay.
Yeah, so far. In this book. Yeah, in this book.
Maybe.
In this book so far. In this book so far. Is what
I don't think it was really anything until the last 3 pages, and we just get name dump on us. And, you know, luckily we kind of know, right, Kyle?
That's why I had to read the hedge night. That's
yeah.
why when I got to this chapter, reading ahead, that's when I was like, yeah, we should read the hedge night.
Kyle, do you remember all those names?
The green apple fossil ways.
It's the biggest one he remembers.
I forget. We'll have to get there, yeah.
All right, so we start with John, and he's walking down. And I guess it's the library, right? I don't know if they had like a fancy name for it, but library down below the wall. He's trying to find Sam.
I think it was like like the unused library too. Like it was like the back section.
Yeah, clearly not many of these rapers and thieves are much
section.
bookworms.
I was going to say, I think the whole library is basically unused.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Maester Aemon when he had eyes.
Yeah.
Most people
is
probably
it
can't
Eamon
even
just
read.
telling people to go? Eamon like, hey, just go grab me that book, grab me that scroll, and that's why it's just like
Well,
all
he
over
can't
the
even
fucking
read
place.
shit. Well, he can't even read shit, right?
No,
Eamon, he's
not
blind.
anymore.
I guess not anymore.
Exactly.
We don't know
So,
how
like,
long
even
he's
since
been
Eamon,
blind for.
Yeah, even like we don't even know if he's been blind the whole time he was on the wall, but however long he's been blind, he has been able to read shit down there.
Yeah. So we see it's pretty dark. It's just one light. John even puts out his light because it's like an open flame. He doesn't want the whole thing to go up in fire.
Yeah. Once he gets close, yep.
And Sam is just down there surrounded by scrolls and old books. And we know that he was sent down there to look for maps for when they do end up leaving the wall, right?
Yeah, and he's been down there Sam's been down there way longer than he even realized he was down there. John's like, he's like, have you been down here all night? And Sam's like, oh, fuck, have I? Like, shit. And Ras
Wait, all night?
Yeah, and Ras, they were saying, like, people were making fun, like, joking around that he wasn't at breakfast. Like, what the fuck would happen to Sam not being at breakfast type thing.
People thought he deserted.
He deserted, yeah.
Yeah.
And John
Which is like, come on.
Yeah,
He's
John,
way too
too much of a
scared.
plus.
Yeah,
Come on,
like,
dude.
John's like, I've been there. It's a little scary.
Isn't it great, though, just really quick sidebar, when you're, like, in a really dark space, like, so encapsulated in whatever you're doing that you lose track of time?
Well, it's weird. Like, my bedroom now has no windows, which I think is actually illegal to be considered a bedroom. But it has no
Totally
windows.
illegal. It's not a bedroom. You're sleeping in the basement.
And when I went on vacation, the room just had like a normal window and like a little bit of light would come in when the sun came up, and I was up at dawn every single fucking day just because I'm so used to sleeping in complete darkness that like any light would just like wake me up instantly.
Yeah, for sure.
So that kind of sucks, but yeah, like I know what you're saying too.
I've been sleeping with my one window, like, shade open, and 7 o'clock-ish, like, bam, like, sun's in my eyes, and, like,
You
but
can't
I just
fall
can't.
back asleep after that, dude.
I immediately fall back to sleep. I immediately fall back, just roll over. But
Just turn over.
all right, so Sam's like pretty giddy about everything that he's found down there, right? And we
He's like,
we kind of find out that
he says there's thousands of like old like useful like books and stuff, and John doesn't give really a fuck. He's like, oh, that's cool. Winterfell has like 100 books, and we like maybe not even more because John probably doesn't know about the fire that happened in the Winterfell library when
Which, like, 100 books, I thought that library was way bigger than 100 books.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be bigger.
Tyrion said it was like a good book, but that's what John said. Is like
It's gotta be bigger.
Yeah.
Like, how much time is John like? If
he's got to spend time there for sure. He 100% had to spend time there as a kid. Lewin's got him in that library a couple times a week, I would think.
That's what I'm saying. But if Lewin's not there, like, they're not going to the library. Like, he's not going to the library to read. So, like, is he paying too much attention? Like, oh yeah, I guess there's a couple hundred. Like, there could be more, but
yeah. I thought that was weird too, Kyle. Maybe 100 now that after the fire might be correct.
Maybe.
But
Yeah, that might be right. But that's I read that. I was like, is he boasting about 100 books?
Like, I got like 100 books.
I think it's just like him not giving a fuck. He's like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, whatever. And then so he's like asking about the maps, and he shows John this like map, but the paint's like really faded, and like you can't really like barely see what's labeled on it. And
but you can see the wildling camps on it, right?
Yeah,
like
he says he can see a few wildling camps. And then Sam gets excited showing John this book, and it was an account of a journey from the Shadow Tower to Lorne Point on the frozen shore. And it was written by a ranger named Redwin. And it's not dated, but it mentions a Doran Stark. I think it was a type of
Doran Stark. It
says Doreen. I doubt it's Doreen.
It's D-O-R-R,
yeah, mine autocorrected. It happens a fucking lot in these notes, dude.
Yeah.
George just being one letter off all the time. So basically the point of that is just because it's a king in the north, we know it's at least before Aegon came over, so at least 300 years ago.
And it's kind of fitting just because we just got a new king in the north.
And Sam says that in these books, they say that they found giants and traded with children of the forest. And he found some maps in with that book as well.
And he found a book that talks about the language of the children of the forest.
Yep.
But
what do you think about this book, Kyle? What do you think about, like, just like the general stuff that Sam found? Like, we've heard talks about some of the stuff that Sam's finding in these books before, where it's all like legends, but now Sam's actually finding like written documentation of it.
They fought giants.
They said they found giants.
You gotta take their word for it, man.
No, it says fought.
They fought?
I thought it said fought.
Yeah, F-O-U-G-H-C. They fought them.
Autocorrect.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Game of Thrones word. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, fought.
It's pretty funny that, like, so the Citadel, it was mentioned that the Citadel doesn't have some of these books, so.
Yeah.
You know, it's no wonder that most of the South doesn't believe in this shit because the books and the accounts of it are still probably at the wall. And
we have heard that like it's weird because Sam says some of this shit's written from Maesters thousands of years ago, but like from what I knew of Westeros, like pretty much everything like up until Aegon's conquest is like pretty unreliable in terms of like any like history we get. Like there wasn't like a structured formal way of like keeping history until around Aegon's conquest is like what I've heard. So like these writings, maybe, I don't know, they probably not like, I don't know, like encyclopedias or like documentations of what happened that year. What do they call those? Almanac? I don't know what they call that. But you know what I mean? Like they're probably just like weird, like one-off like instances of stuff. They're not like complete.
Yeah. I think Almanac was the book that you're looking for.
And I think
encyclopedia or something.
I mean, I think it mirrors.
I think Almanac's more
reality
time related
as well. Like, I mean, there's right.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Actual history, and then do you even trust what's left? You know, that kind of thing.
Well, it's weird because
that by the victors, and
what I think the difference between reality and this, and maybe we're cutting hairs, it probably doesn't even matter. Is like reality. Our documentation of historical events and just events in general got better as technology got better. Where like in this world, they've literally been stuck in like the Middle Ages for 1,000 years. It seems like 1,000-ish years, right? Where John even says like they did the same fucking shit we did. Like, what do you mean they ate the same shit? They did the same shit. Like when Sam says like you can learn a lot from these like ledgers and stuff. Where like I'm sure there's been some advancements, but like I don't know. It seems like at least 300 years there's been no tech.
They're still using swords.
Exactly. Yeah. There's been nothing.
Yeah. No guns or anything.
Which is like part of the story, but
now the dragons are no more. You know.
Yeah.
You used to have like a super weapon.
Yeah. They were just OP, and then they got nerfed. They got nerfed. All right, so we pretty much find out that Sam.
So John points out to Sam, he's like, you might be able to do this for us. Like this guy Redwin did.
Right,
you might be able to write like some shit for us. And John thinks he's going to be like encouraging, like, oh, Sam will like that. But
Sam got fucking terrified. He's like, God damn it, dude.
Because he's just thinking about all this terrible, not terrible, but all the shit that Redwin went through that Sam might be going through. He's like, I don't want to go fight giants and do all this shit. Right.
Yeah, he's trying to give him more motivation to want to be out there because I mean I don't know if it's explicitly said yet, but he is headed out, and that's kind of why he's. Yeah. I think but I mean Sam is part of the group.
Oh yeah.
We're about to be there for sure.
But I knew it was coming up. I think that was also kind of why he's down here in these books and maps so much is he's trying to like first of all he's trying to hide kind of and hide from reality, but he's also trying to prepare as much as he can before going out there. He wants to find every document, every map, everything he can to be prepared and for what's coming.
I half agree with you. I don't think he's trying to actually like physically prepare at all. I think he's just trying to hide and like hide his mind and be like, oh, this is a cool book. Oh, wait, there's 1,000 of them. Like it's going to take me years to rearrange all this. Like it's really good. I should stay and rearrange.
How much corn did they eat 3,000 years ago?
If anything, I don't know if it's prepared, but like right when you're, I don't know if you guys have ever done this. If you're gonna have like a surgery tomorrow, or you're gonna have something tomorrow, and like you look up like just horror stories of like you don't look up like the success stories. You look up like the horror stories, or like
I would never.
You just like you're googling online like is this surgery gonna, like when I was getting my ACL surgery, I was like, will this surgery go well? And then I just like, people don't post about when the surgery goes well. People post about like when they have the problem like Wilmer. Like we do from college, where you fucking can't straighten your leg for 3 years and have to have a new surgery again, right? Like that's the shit that you find online. So I think that's partially what Sam's doing too. He's like, I'm just gonna read all these ranges where they went north and caught some fish, but he's reading all these ranges where they went north and fucking fought giants, and it's shit that's worthy about writing about.
I think he's just delaying, but moving on. We find out that
I think the map stuff. I think he's trying to get them as much of an advantage as they can.
I think he just enjoys like learning too and reading. Yeah. So yeah, okay.
He's a little bit of a nerd. He's like us. He likes to read.
And to Jeff's point, he tells John, he's like, "There's so many books down here, like, and so they didn't have typewriters or printing presses, right? So when a book gets old, this is probably what I'm saying with technology. Like they said that some of these books have been copied 50 times.
Yeah.
Like did we have technology where you couldn't print for that long, where you had to copy books 50 times? Yes. 50 times.
I mean, you go back far enough until like the printing press was made, you know.
That's what I'm saying. From like the earliest like actual text we have until when the printing press was made,
for it to continuously wear out 50 times.
I guess like a published copy that we read now lasts way longer than a handwritten book from back then. No,
for sure.
They wear.
I mean, the quality of the paper itself was probably 10 times better than back then.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't know. 50 times is that's what just to what I'm saying. These guys have been no technological advance, which is just part of the world. I don't think there's like anything to that. It's just differences between.
I think it's for
the
story,
histories for sure. Yeah, but it's just differences. The difference for like what Kyle was saying, why. Like in our history, there is a point where like, oh yeah, history just gets way better. Just because like we have technology, we have the internet. You can we get with even the telegraph right now. We can just talk to each other from far away or whatever. But yeah.
Sure. All right. So John pretty much is like, look, Sam, you're going to be safe. Come up with us. We're bringing 200 men with us. Most of them Rangers, and Corin Halfhand is bringing another 100 from the Shadow Tower. This is where we find out that Pip and Toad, who are guys that want to go, actually have to stay. And then Sam's going because they're bringing ravens, and they want to make sure that if they do die, their journey is well documented and sent back to the wall.
Eamon ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, and Eamon ain't going nowhere. So that old 100-year bastard.
So I think this also kind of gave me a sense of the scale of the Night's Watch here, because I mean to me beforehand, 200 people would have been almost all of them, but it doesn't sound like it's quite all. You know what I'm saying? Like it sounds like there's probably 1,000.
Yeah. So what did they say? Old Bear's taking 200.
They're probably leaving like 50 left.
They said the Old Bear's taking 200 seasoned men, 3/4 of them Rangers. Corin Halfhand will be bringing another 100 from the Shadow Tower. So 200 men, and then 300 is what we hear.
You're not listening to me though.
But you're asking what.
So what I'm saying is like, yeah. Like because the way they were talking about, we need men, we need men, we need men. It makes it sound like there was like 20 people at the wall. I mean, more than that, obviously, but
I think again, I don't know if
a lot of thinking coming out of
I just don't know what I'm allowed to say. I know the answer. I know what the fans think. I don't know when that comes out or if it's a huge thing. What they say is there's 1,000 people. There's 1,000 people in the watch. About the distribution, I think, is like 700-ish at Castle Black, 600 to 700 at Castle Black, and then 200-ish at each of the other towers. Right, so 600 Castle Black, 200 at Shadow Tower, 200 at East Watches. I think is the split up. So if they're taking 200, they're leaving only 400. So they're taking a third of everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, one of them is taking half their guys then.
Well, yeah, and what the big thing here is 3/4 of them Rangers. So the people they're leaving behind are builders. They're pretty much taking everybody that's a Ranger. Is probably how it works out.
Everyone that's meant to go north of the wall is
going. Unless you're Lord Commander Steward of or Sam, right? Like it's probably mostly just the Rangers. I don't remember if Pip and Toad and Halder are where they got sorted. I
think one was a cook.
Yeah, you're right. I think one did go to the builders or whatever.
Halder was definitely a builder because he used to be a stonemason. I don't have what Pip was, but like that's why Halder's not going, right? Like that's why those guys aren't going.
Yeah. You can't send them all, and you got to leave some leadership behind in case they do all get murdered.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's Maester Aemon, right? Like, who's in leadership? Who's taking over leadership?
When that even comes up at the end.
Like, who's he leaving in charge?
Yeah, we don't know how that's handled. Well, I know who he's going to leave in charge, and we're going to find out, I'm sure, soon enough. But
yeah,
I forget.
Also, when John tells him who all's going, he tells Sam he's going to be. You guys might have said this. He's going to be as safe as he would be at his Lord Father's house at Hornhill. And Sam's like, yeah, it wasn't ever really safe there. Remember that story I told you where my dad was literally going to hunt me down in the woods like all the fucking deer? Yeah, so.
Till that time, he was probably pretty safe, but yeah, no.
So Sam actually brings up a point that I think is completely valid here. Anybody, like, why do you fucking need me? Anybody else can tend the Ravens. Like, I am the worst qualified person to go.
That's not true.
He's like, anybody who knows how to write can do this. And John's like, I'm the Lord Commander's steward. Like, well, who's going to be sending Ravens? Just the Lord Commander. Like, yeah, I get you don't want to have John take care of the Ravens. Like, send somebody else to, like, just like, that's all they do is watch the Ravens. But if you need someone to write, if you need someone to write a letter,
blah, blah, blah.
That's all you need. You don't need Sam. Like, Sam apparently is there because he's the person that can write the letters.
Yeah, but why not Sam? Like, who gives a fuck? Like, take Sam.
Because he's fat and cowardly. What do you mean, why not Sam?
Sam, sit on your horse. Take the fucking Ravens. Like,
there's a million reasons why not Sam.
He's got to learn sometime.
There's also a reason, too. You're a member. You work with the Ravens. No, but he works with the Ravens every day. Like, so you're working with the Ravens. You're a part of this group. You're fucking coming with, and that's it. Like,
I mean, I don't know how hard it is to work with Ravens, but it seems like it's just like clip a little thing on their leg and run, right? And let it go.
I agree with you, Nelson. I think he has a good point in saying, like, dude, anybody can take care of a Raven. And then, like, while you're eating your fucking porridge at night, you can fucking write what Mormon wants to send to Amon.
Well, the thing, so to my point is, John's rebuttal is, I would just be too busy. It's not that I couldn't do it. It's just that I'll be too busy. He doesn't say it's like, oh, this is a job that requires skill.
John's also not everybody else, though. Like, John has worked with Ravens probably at Castle Winterfell.
Winterfell. I don't know about worked with Ravens.
Maybe here and there, but not much. Am I still staticky, though?
No, I don't know. I think we're underplaying this job. Like,
maybe we are. I mean, like I said, I've never worked with
they're
Ravens,
obviously doing other shit, right? They're setting up camp. They got to take down camp.
Exactly.
They got to hunt. They've got to
be on guard and
they're
shit
ranging,
too. Like,
right? They're gonna have scouts out there. Like, everyone's got their own job. Like, have a dude that's on fucking Raven watch. Like,
be one of Amon's dudes.
Yeah, but like you're gonna like have to basically bring her along like a whole nother hunter just to feed Sam Tarley on this fucking.
That's not true. This should be good for him. Lose some fucking weight, Sam. No, you can't have four pheasants.
It's character building, and that's what I was gonna say. Is like even just outside of like in terms of George's writing, it's to put him there to build the relationship. I'm sure, and. Like, I think there's plenty of reason. And I mean, I know what happened
I know what happens north of the wall, so I know why Sam's there plot wise. I just like from this point of view, I think Sam might have a little bit of a point here, and I think it's a stretch on George's point by saying you have to go.
They're taking 300 men. One person with 12 Ravens is not going to slow them down.
Why not bring like the old steward? The old Amon steward, the blind one.
Because he's wiping Maester Amon's ass, and he's used to that job.
He's like in the stables now or something, right?
Well, isn't one of them blind too?
Yeah, Clytus. Yeah. He's like half blind.
Yeah, why would you want him?
Yeah, but John can still write. Mormon can write too. Fuck that.
That's what I'm saying. That I don't know about the Ravens. I think we're spending too much time on it.
I think it's
really
more. No, I want to stay on it. I think it's more of just writing the message. Obviously, the high people can write. It's about cleaning the cages and doing whatever else you have to do to make sure that they're healthy, feeding them. Like obviously Maester Mormont's not doing that, so it's like fuck it, bring Sam. Sam's gonna do that because he's been doing it. I don't know.
It's his fucking job. Bring him. Yeah. He's the head radio man at camp.
All right. They get into this conversation about fear now, and Sam's like, well, aren't you afraid? And John's like, of course I'm afraid. And then it gets a pretty cool quote that comes from Ned. Nels?
Yeah, he says, I don't have the exact quote, but he says there's no shame in being afraid. It's how you face it is the gist, right?
Absolutely. It was pretty cool.
Great quote.
Yeah.
It's kind of like little Batman.
I feel like that's a quote that's for this show, but it might not even be in the books. It's in the beginning, right? When he says... Oh no, it is in the books. John and Rob are arguing about whether if this is in the first Bran chapter about the guy who got beheaded.
When they cut the head?
Yeah, John and Rob, one of them thinks that he died bravely and the other one thinks that he didn't. And Bran asks Ned what he thinks, and he says it's the only time a man can be brave. Something
It's
like
when
that.
they're scared.
Is when they're scared. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're afraid is the only time a man can be brave or something like that. Which is similar to this quote.
That's pretty cool. Reminds me of Batman, you know? Like, I feel like Batman Begins had something very similar. The actual quote is.
I feel like a lot of different shows and movies.
I feel like it
something
echoes
like that.
this. I feel like this chapter has a lot of callbacks to that scene, and again the scene with John and Eamon. The love is the death of duty scene in the first one. I mean, obviously towards the end.
So pretty cool line, little Ned shout out. But now that it's time to go back up and take these maps to Mormont, so they're walking through the worm walk. So it's the first time we kind of, I think, hear about the tunnels.
Yeah.
Below the wall.
Tunnels.
What's the deal with the Wormbox glow?
They support Castle Black somehow. I didn't understand that though.
I don't know if
like,
they actually support it structurally.
Well, they
It's
support
more
it
like,
because,
let's walk through this so we don't freeze our tits off in the winter.
Oh, that's true.
John
Okay.
says they never used it in the summertime, but basically there's an entire network, probably between every building in Castle Black,
Oh,
like
yeah, for
between
sure.
all the different keeps, definitely the food house and like the barracks and stuff like that. Because he says in the wintertime, the snows come 50 feet, 40 to 50 feet deep, and you just like can't
Which
go,
is
you
crazy.
just fucking can't go outside. So like, what the fuck is the point of having all those people here if you just can't go outside anyway? Like, I'm sure they have to go outside, right?
They got to get their snowshoes on, dude.
How do they get up the wall?
This isn't well, they have the winch and they have the stair. This isn't a spoiler, I don't think, but later in the books there's places where there is heavy snowfall, like over 10 feet deep, and they literally just carve out like tunnels like from building to building, but you can't like see like in between the buildings and shit. So that's probably what they do
what
here,
else
right?
is crazy though is like if I'm Yoren and I'm like I'm gonna make sure like shit, like winter's coming, I better hurry up, but go a little bit slower so that when that heavy snowfall and you can't get to the front door of the castle.
I guess I gotta stay in
Just
Winterfell.
I'll just hold up
winter.
here in Dorne. I'll hold up this winter in Dorne.
Just stay a little bit
darn.
longer, I guess, till that snow goes down. But
It's cool that they brought up another person like Yorn. I forget the guy's name already, but
Crowin or something.
yeah, it's coming up when they
in a
see
minute,
the
yeah.
recruits. So the other thing that they mentioned
Conley?
this time is that John says winter's coming, and he feels it in his bones. He feels it in his bones that it's going to be a long one because the last one was short. Or I don't know if it mattered that the last one was short, but he feels it in his bones that this one's going to be a long winter.
Real quick, when we were talking about the fear, John even says that like everyone's afraid. Too many people have been gone missing lately, and even the two men they brought back, John brings up the whites coming back to life, and John says that he's been having nightmares about that.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Yeah, of course, obviously.
So Yorn is the guy with Arya, right?
Yep.
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they call them like the wandering crows, the guys who like wander the kingdom looking for new recruits,
Gathered men.
fresh recruits. Yep.
So they come out of the wall, and then they take a little moment to like look up at the wall, and they kind of mention that the wall seems to have moods here. I don't know, Nelson, if you have anything.
There's a cool quote about the wall. I don't know. I don't have it in my notes, but I noticed there's a cool quote if one of you guys wants to read it.
Sometimes it seemed to John almost a living thing, with moods of its own. The color of the ice was wont to change with every shift of the light. Now it was the deep blue of frozen rivers, now the dirty white of old snow. And when a cloud passed before the sun, it darkened to the pale gray of pitted stone. The wall stretched east and west as far as the eye could see, so huge that it shrunk the timbered keeps and stone towers of the castle to insignificance. It was the end of the world, and we were going beyond it.
Yeah. I don't think this is a spoiler either. George in interviews says that he got his inspiration for the wall from Hadrian's Wall. He visited Hadrian's Wall and like stood on it and just imagined himself like being
I've
one of
never
the.
even heard of that.
Yeah, nobody knows what that is.
You know what that is? I think
Yeah,
it's
where is Hadrian's Wall?
it's a wall.
Is it in Austria or
it's
something?
no, it's like definitely like an England area, like between England.
Brampton, United Kingdom.
Yeah, between England and like Ireland, or England and like Ireland and Scotland. I don't know what the UK.
Oh,
is
it's
like.
little. It's a little fucking
It's just
thing.
a little thing. Yeah, it's only a few feet off the ground, like maybe 5 feet tall in most places. Nothing even close to the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
But he said he visited it and just stood on it, and in history, like that's what separated like the civilized kingdoms between the barbarians, right? And he said he went there and stood there, and it was nighttime, and everyone was leaving, and the sun was setting. And he just imagined being like in medieval times, and like it's just barbarians is again like what they're thinking of as wildlings, which.
Yeah.
Just like the people who are less civilized that live on the other side of the wall, and just like at nighttime having the sun go down and just like standing there imagining not knowing what's out there, what's going to come tomorrow. Like, holy shit, just like an army could show up and you wouldn't know about it. That is what like inspired him to do like a lot of this shit. And that like the Hadrian's Wall, that's what they all thought. Like the Hadrian's Wall, like fuck it, everything out there, we don't give a fuck. This is the end of the world. We're just going to guard this and keep everything whatever, south, east, west. I don't know how it works for Hadrian's Wall, but we're just gonna keep everything this way safe and fuck whatever's out there. That's the end of the world. So I feel like that's kind of what they're saying here is like, that is completely unknown. We've just said, fuck all that. We don't give a fuck what's going on out there. And now John's going to go out there.
We get another mention of the comet here and a new nickname.
Yep.
Glow?
Mormont's Torch.
Yeah. Attaboy.
I like that name. That's my
it's
favorite
a cool
one so far.
too. Yeah. Saying it's there half in jest to guide Mormont on his way because he's too old. There's like jokes that he's too old to like find his way and stuff, I guess.
So do we think this comet's going north? You would think, right? If it's going to be the torch and it's
leading his way.
Or it's just that big? I don't know. It's kind of weird. That's still one thought I had was, is this thing going north?
I mean, it stays in the sky for fucking years, so like...
I think it's more of it's just lighting up. Yeah, so that's true. That's another point. We didn't really talk about that yet. For as far as where this one fits in the timeline, this is by far the furthest chapter, like latest chapter we've had. So this is like the comet's been around for a fucking while. So this is 2 months after the first sighting of the comet. So this comet's been in the sky for 2 months at this point.
I do like how they call it a wanderer. So to me, at least, means that they know somewhat what it is.
What, the comet?
Well, they call it a comet.
Yeah. Well, the Black Brothers had dubbed the Wanderer Mormont's Torch.
Yeah, I mean, they call it a comet.
I don't know what that means. How does that mean anything, the Wanderer?
Because like a comet like disappears for a while and then it shows back up and then it disappears and then it comes back. It like wanders around the galaxy. Or
you think this is something they know of? I don't think anyone knows of this as like any. This is like a phenomenon.
Well, like Glow just said, he said.
Well, they've seen other ones. I thought, yeah, they've definitely seen other ones. How would they?
I think that's some insight into that. I guess is what I'm trying. The comet
that this is the same one coming back. Is that what you're saying, Nuffs?
Well, I thought Kyle was implying that this was like Halley's Comet, where it's a recurring thing, and they know that, the red comet's going to come back.
No, I'm just saying they know it's a comet. I guess is what I'm getting.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. I think we've heard him say comet before.
All right, so they get up above out of the worm walks, and everybody's
There's no one there.
Yeah, where are they at, Kyle?
They're all getting hoarse. That's right. Yeah.
Digging for buried treasure.
Let's get some poo.
Molestown.
So because Gren is going on the raging, John had made a joke earlier where he said like, Sam, you have to come to tend the ravens and to keep Gren humble. Which is where we learn that Gren's also going on the raging. And now
he's getting his first woman.
That Pip and Toad and Halder, who are not going to the raging, took Gren to Molestown to buy him his first woman in celebration. And they offered for Sam and John to join, but Sam's more afraid of horrors than he is of going north, and John is like, fuck that, I'm not about that.
I took a vow. Go do it.
Yeah,
Go do it in John's voice.
He's like Stannis.
I took a vow.
He's like a young Stannis.
All right, so up in the field we get
you'll get a long quote later on.
We get a new master of arms to Andrew Tarth, who's training the new recruits brought by Conwy. Is it Conwy? Conwy.
Oh, real quick before that, another just a short thing. Doesn't John walk by a sept? John walks by a sept, and he hears people praying inside.
Yeah.
Or no,
I guess it is now.
And he's like, fuck
he says, some people want horrors, some want God. He's like, I don't really need either of them right now. My God's out there.
Yep. And he wonders who feels
better afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, who feels better. That's right.
So Andrew Tarth is trading these guys. There's a handful of them. They came with Conway. They came from Gulltown.
Yep. So we get like two short descriptions. One, John, just like off appearance, says what they look like. He says, a new crop consisted of a graybeard leaning on a staff with two blonde boys with the look of brothers. A foppish youth. What's foppish mean? A foppish youth in soiled satin. A ragged man with clubfoot. Yeah, it's probably Game of Thrones word. A ragged man with clubfoot and some grinning loon who must have fancied himself a warrior. Kyle, what's it mean?
Concerned with their clothes and appearance in an affected and excessive way.
Okay, so he's probably the boy whore, because then later Noy says who we got. He says we got a brigand, a barber, a beggar, two orphans, and a boy whore.
Oh,
with such do we defend the realms.
Satin.
Yeah. Soiled satin.
Extra gross.
Yeah, so we got a brigand, a barber, a beggar, two orphans, a boy whore. With such do we defend the realms of men, is what Donald Noy goes on to say. Because John and Sam sit back to watch these recruits fighting. They're saying that Sir Andrew. So why is he here?
Because Sir Alistair is down to
Thorne
King's
is
Landing.
going down to King's Landing.
Is this the first we heard of this, Kyle?
Yeah, I think so.
So
I
he's
didn't
the new
know where
Master
he
of
was.
Arms. He's the new Master of Arms. He hasn't.
I thought he was headed to one of the other wall tower or outposts.
I think he went to
we heard that they
Eastwatch
was
to
kicking
then
him
get
out,
a
though,
ship.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We knew he was getting forced out, but I thought he was going to.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I thought that's where he was headed.
I think you're right, Jeff. I think they sent him to Eastwatch to
Take a
sail
ship.
down.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe.
So we do learn a little bit more about Donnell Noy, other than what he thinks about this crop of people.
Well, yeah, real quick, just for Sir Andrew, they say John seems to wish that he doesn't really like say anything like too crazy about it, but he says like he's not nearly as rough as Sir Alistair was, but he's still a tough like Master at Arms. He's still gonna give you bruises and shit.
Well, he's
Yeah,
beating
and
the shit out of this one guy, right?
Well,
He
yeah.
tackled him at some point. Yeah.
So that's when
Just bum
they
rushed
say
him,
Donald
I think
Noy
he said.
standing in the door of the armory, and Donald Noy asks John what he thinks of these new recruits. And
They
John asks
smell
where they
of
came from. That's
summer.
where we hear the description I just gave. And John says like, oh, they'll do. And he gives like a little wink at Sam. He's like, oh, we did. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. This really gives me like a sophomore year camp. Like, you're not loving life. You're still struggling a little bit, but the freshmen are hating life way worse. And like, even like the coach that you had got fired and there's a new coach and you're like, this coach is fucking nowhere near as hard as the coach I had, but I still wouldn't want to be over there. It's like that type of feeling, right? That's what John and Sam are doing right now, looking at these new guys.
I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, good analogy.
And then you just have the senior Donnell Noy just be like, it's okay.
Yeah, without
They'll
an
be,
arm.
they'll be good.
Or no, all the seniors are down in Molestown fucking fucking the horse the day before camp starts.
Oh shit! All right. Well, the real reason Donnell Noy is kind of talking with John is to kind of pass on the rumor about Rob, right? And I guess it's been passed around. It's all people have been talking about that Rob is now King of the North.
King of the North.
King of the North.
And Donald Noy asks him what he thinks Rob will be like as king. Obviously, John's a loyal brother and says he'll be a good king.
Yeah, he doesn't say much other than that. Does he even think much more?
Well, so like John, just like every other John chapter, he's just like getting like news that's like not shitty. Like most of it's been shitty up to this point. This isn't really shitty, but it's like definitely like internally conflicting, right?
Yeah,
He explains why it's shitty for him later on, or well, Noy explains it to him pretty much, where he's like, he's gonna be like king shit, and here you're fucking stuck up here
and you're shuffling
can't
shit.
talk to anybody, you get nothing. Yeah,
he said, John thinks like we shared our first cup of wine together, but we didn't share our first cup of mother's milk. Like thinking that like, okay, we're brothers, but we're not like completely brothers.
yeah.
And he thinks now Rob will be drinking summer wine from like jeweled goblets, and John will be sipping like icy water from like mountain streams and shit like that, which is like eerily similar to like what Mormont tells him later. Right, what John thinks here, I think, is a lot similar to what Mormont tells him later, where he's like, Rob, like Mormont goes on a whole speech, Glow and Kyle are going to read it, but
I think it's a little unfair. I don't think Rob's going to be a fancy king.
I was thinking that too.
But he's still gonna be a king, I think, is what.
Yeah, I was thinking I'm on the same page as both of you. Like when Rob thought this, I was like, nah, Rob's not like, or when John thought this, I was like, nah, Rob's not taking summer wine out of jeweled cups. But then later when Mormont's like, there's a difference between a king and a lord, and I was like, I don't know, maybe he will be, like, who knows, like maybe like that shit will, if like everyone
I'm
starts
sure
bowing
you
down
don't
to
know until they get the crown on their actual head, right? And now it's like, oh, like he wasn't getting, I'm sure like now he's getting even more shit from people. Like he was getting all the courtesies for sure, but now he's their king. They're going to be kissing his feet.
Which
right?
is exactly what Noy
like,
starts saying,
Robert.
right? He's like, I thought at once I would have thought Robert would have been a great king.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
yeah. This is where we get Noy's backstory.
yeah, and so John asks Noy, he's like, did you make Robert's Warhammer? And he's like, yeah, I did. I'm a fucking god. He's like, I was a Brathian man. I was old enough to know Stefan as well as all three sons.
Yeah.
And I served them until I lost my arm. Didn't say anything.
How
more
did he
than that.
lose his arm? Did he fight?
Probably fought.
He's
I would
probably-
think he fought in Robert's
In the
rebellion,
rebellion?
but I don't know why you would end up. Thing is, if you fought on Robert's side, why would you end up at the wall, right? Like we know, like Alistair and some of those guys like fought on the Targaryen side, and that's why they're on the wall now. That's why like there's respected people on the wall.
So my only thought to why, and I honestly truly don't know if we actually find out why he's there, was that maybe like they were like, well, we need someone with 2 arms. Like, sorry, you got to go. No, you got to go.
Yeah, I don't know either. But even then, you think like if you were the Smith for the Baratheons for like your whole, like if Mikken lost his arm in Winterfell, they wouldn't be like, oh, time to go to the wall. They'd be like, no, okay, you're good. We'll give you a fucking house.
Yeah,
and
you can
like,
you retire.
You served us your whole life. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I honestly don't know why he's at the wall either, but it is weird, right? Because if he's a Baratheon man, like we've heard of Targaryen men who were kind of in a similar situation, and by Targaryen men, it's been like fought on that side in the war, like Alistair, who are now here.
Mm-hmm.
Aemon. Well, I guess he's not from that. But...
He was here way before too.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite lines of the whole chapter is when Noy describes the 3 Baratheon brothers here.
Well, the first thing he says, when again, still talking about Robert before what you're going to say is he says, some men are like swords made for fighting. When you put them up, they go to rust. Mm-hmm. And then John asks about Stannis and Renly, and you want to do this quote?
So I'll read it. Robert was the true steel. Stannis is pure iron, black and hard and strong. Yes, but brittle. The way iron gets. He'll break before he bends. And Renly, that one, he's copper, bright and shiny, pretty to look at, not worth all that much at the end of the day. So.
Well, people steal copper nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, copper is probably the most valuable.
It's worth a lot.
Copper is the most valuable of all those 3. I think even back in this time, it probably was. Right? They had copper pennies back then. Like,
but he meant for fighting.
Yeah,
exactly. He's got it pretty much dead on, I think, from what we've seen at least.
But what's interesting, like to kind of really your point, is out of all 3 of these, copper is the most valuable. And his point right before this is... Yeah, swords. Not all fighting utensils are meant for like ruling, right? Fighting and ruling are 2 different things here. So it's like interesting. It almost like seems like Renly, if you're literally saying he's the one that's like copper, like to me that seems, in this analogy, that seems like he's made for the throne more. But
yeah, but he's also in the middle of what's going to be a 3-king war.
A big fighting contest first. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he thinks what metal Rob is. Yeah. But he doesn't say it out loud,
John
obviously.
Did not ask.
What do you think?
Platinum, vibranium, adamantium,
bronze.
When you pick like Valyrian steel. Something in the book.
Sorry about that.
So then he was like, goes in to talk about how they don't really talk politics there because everybody's there from such different regions and has all these different alliances, but now they're all brothers.
He gives one example of a different alliance. Sam's dad is like a high-ranking like whether he's like a council or what, he's high-ranking in Renly's, like one of the higher, one of the like more important people that's sworn to Renly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, John's like basically no one just fucking talks about politics around here because everyone knows everyone's got different views. So basically, like, all right, see you later, Noy. And Noy's like, farewell, good luck on the ranging, bring back Benjen. John promises that they will. And then they go up.
Before we get there, we do have a ghost sighting.
We've had Ghost's been with us since we left the library. He's just like chilling there. Yep.
Yeah, and he stops outside of Mormont's office. Or
You're
chambers.
the one that made him leave the library too, Jeff. You missed it then.
Yeah. Come on.
That was your chance.
Jeff.
What do you mean? Yeah,
you're the one that said, "Oh, they step out of the library." You never.
No, I didn't actually put him in, but I know Glow jerks off to Ghost, so I
know I forgot to.
He was just being so Ghost was just being so quiet. We all forgot about him.
I try to embody Ghost, and that's why I don't talk.
So then, Glow, you should get a white husky for your pet.
Dude, white. I want a husky so bad.
I do too. Let's get huskies.
Yeah, I'll get a husky too.
All right, let's go.
All right, so we get up into Mormont's chambers, and Mormont's already talking.
We got the other crazy animal in the chapter.
Yeah, this fucking crow going nuts.
Immediately streams snow, first thing that happens.
And that kind of... Mormont didn't really stop, though, right? He just kind of like kept talking to Thorin.
They said that he immediately cuts off his conversation with Thorin as soon as... What's his name? Not Thorin. Thorin Smallwood.
Thorin Smallwood, yeah.
Yeah. He cuts it off immediately as soon as they walk in. Like, oh, cool, you got the maps. It took you long enough. Show them to me.
Yeah.
But Thorin doesn't cut off the conversation. It just kind of like ignores him.
And we find out because he's an Alistair man, and...
Well, John considers him an Alistair henchman, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
And he doesn't think that he likes them very much. And he just, like, continues talking. And basically, he's like, your place is here at Castle Black, like, commanding.
Yeah. I'm first ranger. I'm leading this brigade up.
Yeah.
And it definitely pisses Mormont off a couple different ways.
So the Raven squeaks again. He says, like, you're supposed to be here commanding, it seems to me. And the Raven says, me. And then Mormont says... He's like, I'm the Lord Commander. He says that if you're ever Lord Commander, you can do what you want. You can do what you want, but I'm still alive, and the brothers have not put you in my place. So he's like, well, Benjen's dead, and Jeremy Riker's dead. Kyle, a little trivia: how did Jeremy Riker die? He was the Lord Commander till their first Ranger acting until while Benjen was gone. Basically,
he was north of the wall too, wasn't he?
Nah, he was with us all last book at the wall. He was the one who died in the White attack. Not the one that John was with, but the other one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot. I didn't realize he was the first Ranger when
he was like the acting first Ranger. He was like he was one of the important ones that was like dishing out who was in which company, like who was a steward and stuff with like Alistair and Mormont.
It's been a while now.
Yeah, I mean he's dead now, so one of those characters that I put my notes for no reason, just he's gonna be dead for the rest of the fucking goddamn.
You might mention him once more.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be mentioned many more times, but he says, I sent out Benjen, I sent out Royce, or I sent out Waymar. What'd you say? I sent out
He
Benjen,
says Sir Waymar.
Royce or Waymar. He says one of them.
I sent out Ben Stark and Sir Waymar before him.
Who's that?
Yeah, Kyle, you remember him?
Yeah, Kyle, do you remember him?
I mean, he was obviously was he the one in the prologue?
Yeah, he was like the snotty guy in the prologue. Like the snooty, snotty, whatever you want to call him, the lordling.
Yeah, he was like he had like the big ass horse and the nice steel or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna just like callbacks to the other stuff. I sent out those two, and I don't intend to sit waiting, like send somebody out and just I don't intend to send somebody else out and just sit here on my fat ass waiting to find out when they're gonna come back.
Why does he gotta be fat, bro?
I mean, Mormont's pretty big, right?
Yeah, dude, chill.
He could be like busky.
To do this shit over again. Like he's like, if I send you out, we're in the same spot we were yesterday because that's what I did the last few times.
Exactly.
And we still have no fucking answers.
All right. And Stark remains first Ranger until we know for a certainty that he is dead.
And then, even if he is dead, I'm replacing him.
I'll name who's first Ranger.
Yeah. And he's like, kicks him out. He's like, get out of here. And
how small does this guy feel? He just got bitched in front of Sam and John.
You mean Thor and Tiny Dick?
Yeah. Smallwood.
Dude, I'm telling you, George does it on purpose, dude. George 100% does it on purpose with some of these names.
Oh man, that's great.
On his way out
I think how Jeff just got that.
That's the first time I thought of that. That was fucking good.
On his way out, he frowned at John as if it was like somehow John's fault. And then like Mormont's kind of pissed once he leaves. He says he would rather name Sam first Ranger than Thor and
Tiny Dick.
Yeah, he's mad. He's also scaring the shit out of Sam here.
And he's pissed at Thor and said that he was too old. He's like, do I look too old? Do I look too frail? And John's like, no,
you're beating on his chest.
Sam's like immediately just, like, because like Mormont's kind of pissed. Sam's like just petrified. And John's like, no, my lord, you're as strong as
shut up, Snow.
And Mormont's like, don't cozen me. Another Game of Thrones word.
Yeah, it is a Game of Thrones word.
If it's a word that none of us know, that it's 100% a Game of Thrones word.
It's cozen, first of all.
We all know what it means though. It just means like, don't fucking brown nose me.
Trick or deceive.
So Mormont starts looking at the maps, and he's like, they're definitely older than he would have wanted.
Which he should know, though, right?
But the rivers and hills will still be there, my lord.
Yeah.
Well, like, he had to be expecting these maps to be old. He didn't authorize any maps to be made up there, right?
The Raven starts yelling, old, 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 when he says the maps are old, too. But yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. If he hasn't authorized maps, then there haven't been any since during his lifetime.
Or you think, like, maybe just up in his chambers, he would have kept, like, maybe a kind of recent one for when they do talk about, like, hey, this next ranging, you should go here. Like, you would think that they would have the most recent map pretty readily available.
I feel like I was saying this to you guys, maybe, like, off podcast, like, more playing on Xbox or something like that, but, like, when I went on vacation and I was, like, walking, like, doing hikes and on mountains and shit like that, making maps would be the hardest fucking thing ever, dude. Like, without like a fucking like satellite or a drone, like what the fuck? How do you do that type thing?
You've got to like sit in
cartographers.
You've got to like sit in one spot and just draw whatever you see, and then go sit in another spot and then just compare.
That cannot be how you do it. No way.
How would you do it without getting fucking before playing? Like. You would have
that's
to.
why a lot of old
you just
maps
have to measure
really,
shit, right? You just have to like.
You'd have to like grid it.
It's a lot of measuring.
I think you would grid it out. And then
they did have like.
You do have to grid it out.
Like over
big tools.
That's what I know that's what they do now, right? They have that like when you see the people that like tripod
like,
thing.
Think about a sextant, right? So like that's sailing, but it was a tool back in the day.
Sailor extraordinary.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what I'm saying though is, like, I mean, they had tools that like they knew how to read based off of like the stars. First off,
I think they gridded it out. I think they locationally, like, all right, there's a huge ass tree there.
The stars is bullshit because this is not even like a normal. We don't know what the fuck's going on in the solar system.
I'm not talking about this though. I'm talking. You're just saying.
If I had to make a map, this is how I would do it. All right, I would pick a spot. All right, and I would say, like,
pull out your crayons.
All right, I'm gonna draw from.
Eat the first two.
I'm gonna find 4 corners of a grid that, like, all right, that's the biggest tree. Bam, that's 1 point. Here's another point. Draw that grid, and then move to the next grid and do the same thing until I can start piecing together.
Kind of like every time, each grid's going to be smaller.
No. Like, obviously, it would have to be like a distinctive thing and small enough that you could control it. I'm thinking of like Minecraft and like how you kind of like learn that map. Like, you have a blank piece of paper and you go out and it kind of fills it in. Like, you would actually just have to like fill it in, like, physically.
That's different though. That's called a cognitive map. That's like a psychological thing. Like, where in your brain, you know, like, walk arbitrary distance. When you get to big hill, turn right. That type of thing. It's way harder.
That's not what I'm saying
know,
at
like,
all.
From this hill to this hill is this. No, it is.
Have you seen old maps?
Like, even in our Minecraft world, Jeff, that we've played for hours and hours and hours, if I asked you to tell me what's closer, this island or this mountain and this mountain, you wouldn't fucking know. You would know how to get to them, but you wouldn't know which
I'm not
further,
saying that my map is going to be like, oh, this grid is exactly a half mile. Like, each block would be a half mile. I'm just saying, like, all right, this is what I saw when I gridded this point off.
Your map sucks.
This is with no fucking technology. This is with a piece of paper and a fucking pencil.
That's the point of our argument.
This is how you would do it.
Like, how good are these? It's like that's what we're saying. It's like,
inaccurate as fuck, but it's what you would have.
Inaccurate as fuck.
If you had some dragons that could fly around and make you a whole table of the entire continent, now maybe that's different.
Just burn everything, and then you don't have to draw shit.
Kyle, that's some thinking right there, dude.
So they say that towns come and go. They say towns come and go, but the rivers and mountains will say the same. Mormon's like, yeah, you're kind of right. He said you pick your ravens, and he says that. Aemon's going to pick them later on. And he's like, I want your strongest birds. The Raven's like, strong. He says, if we die, I want to be able to send back word that we're dead. And that just made Sam like dead speechless.
This is my probably favorite line of the whole deal.
Every time we get a line like this where like, this happened with like, Roderick was like calling people porcupines or something in the yard. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I guess you just don't have any other insults. You just call people, you talk about weird animals.
Charlie. When I was a lad half your age, my lady mother told me that if I stood around with my mouth open, a weasel would like to mistake it for his lair and run down my throat. If you have something to say, say it. Otherwise, beware of weasels.
Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Gotta keep that one for in the future when you have kids with their mouth open.
And then you just kick Sam out and Sam leaves.
It's like, you look like an idiot standing up.
Yeah, I guess.
We're gonna die.
He kicks him out. Sam leaves, and he asks John if Sam is as big a fool as he seems. The Raven screams fool. Mormont doesn't wait for John to answer, and he just says that like Randall's important on Renly's council, kind of what we were saying earlier or whatever. He wants to send Sam, but he decided not to because he just like it doesn't think anybody will listen to a quivering fat boy. And he says he's going to send Sir Arnold instead since he's steadier and he's close enough related since his mother was a green apple foss away. Kyle, first callback to the hedge
Let's
knight.
go, Kyle.
Hey, you got that one.
What are the green apple foss aways?
Well, the good ones in terms of our point of view on Duncan.
So 80 years ago, the Fossway family tree split to those two Fossway families, red
not
apple
quite
and green
right
apple.
yet. Still not right, apparently.
Apparently not. So then John asks Mormont, what do you even want from Renly? And Mormont says the same thing I want from anybody.
Men, supplies,
literally
food.
fucking
I
anything.
don't care where we get
Pieces
it from.
of
I'll take
paper.
whatever
Give me some
anybody
stuff.
wants to give us.
I mean, it's definitely smart. Like, one, they don't have any allegiance except for the realm. Like, all right, like any one of them can be king. Like, all right, start sending us stuff. Like, maybe we'll like fake give you our support, even though we're actually not. But this is also when we find out about Thorn is heading to King's Landing with the white hand that's still moving. Hopefully, I guess we don't really know.
So we didn't know that, right? We didn't know that Thorn was taking the hand to King's Landing.
I didn't. I didn't remember it if we did.
I don't remember that, but maybe
I knew that. I just didn't know when we had heard it.
Maybe we did hear it. I don't know. I kind of remember it.
So, Kyle, thoughts on this? This is definitely interesting. He said so. Also,
well, I mean, he's going to the worst possible spot with this. Like, they're not going to give a shit.
Well, hold on. So, a couple things. One thing, he says he's going to be there within a moon's turn.
A week? A month.
A month. He's going to be there within the month. And I would agree with you, but think about who's in King's Landing right now. At least one of the people who has a lot of power in King's Landing has been to the Wall in recent history.
Tyrion.
Not that he loves Alistair. He was like fucking with Alistair, but
yeah, and Tyrion like still, even though he was at the Wall, like still was like, oh, there's no giants out there. Or like I feel like he still didn't.
100%. But if they bring a fucking twitching hand to Tyrion, what's going to happen here?
They're gonna be like, what blood magic is this? But
yeah, I still don't think that's the place to go. Unfortunately, I think that's the place to go in terms of where you would think you need to be.
Yeah, they're obviously trying to send people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But Alistair's the one who decided to send to King's Landing.
Yoren was just there too, though, right?
Yeah, pleading the same case, probably. Yeah, exactly.
But this time they have a hand, and there's millions of people at fucking King's Landing.
Yeah,
that's where they can get the most people.
Yeah, for sure. Like if they just had people like on the streets of King's Landing,
they just turn all the refugees north.
100%. Like Yoren was getting orphan boys. If Yoren was there now there's fucking like food problems and shit. Way more recruits.
All right, well, this hand conversation moves on to Mormont asking how John Tandis doing.
Yep.
And he takes off his glove.
Isn't there some weird shit before that?
Maybe.
Yeah, he talks about this 15-foot tall bear.
Yeah.
Daiwin says you can find behind the wall. His brother or something. Oh, no, it was the last time he went. He says he saw a bear 15 feet tall.
Yep.
And he said, my sister is said to have taken a bear for her lover. I believe that before.
So who's the sister? We know this person. Mage Mormont.
Mage.
So Daisy.
Is that the one with the daughter, the big daughter?
Yeah,
she's
Daisy is the one who was in Rob's King's Guard.
Yeah.
Honor Guard, I guess. Probably not King's Guard, but yeah, was in the Honor Guard of the Whispering Wood. And so yeah, Mage is her mother. But yeah. So go ahead, Kyle. What's the rumor?
Well, he just said that she is said to have taken a bear for her lover, and that he believed that before he believed that there's a 15-foot tall one out there. But I mean, anything can happen in a place where dead people are alive.
Yeah, he's like, but I believe what I see.
We've seen them. Yeah,
like, I believe what I see, and I've seen dead men walking. I haven't seen no 15-foot bear.
But we were speaking of hands here, and how's your hand, John? His hand's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, he says it's better, but like he's described it multiple times. Like the show never talks about like they never show John having any injury. Like John like doesn't even like really. I think it's totally different. Like he actually like grabs in the show. He just like grabs the outside of the lantern and throws it. In the books, he whips the lantern into a cloth, and then sticks his hand in the cloth and throws the cloth on the guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, slightly different, but in the show, they literally never talk about this injury again. And like this is like literally
money on prosthetics. Every
single John chapter we have for the rest of John chapters, he's like we hear 5 or 6 times like, "Oh, I flex my fingers" type shit.
Yeah.
So he says here he has literally scars up halfway to his elbow.
It's pretty raw, and it seems pretty raw, right? Like he's putting an ointment on it, it's itching, which means it's probably healing, right? It's probably scabbing up.
It's been about 3 months. That's the other thing that people give George credit for way more. Like that people give a lot of George. People give George a lot of credit for is that like when people get an injury in one of his books, it's not like, oh, the next day, like the next chapter or two, you're totally fine. Like that shit will stick with you for like the rest of the book or however long the injury would last. So yeah, but he says like, yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about it. I can use Long Claw anyway. He's like, Eamon gave me ointment and he told me to work it, do the finger thing. And he's like, Mormont may be blind, but he's not stupid. He's like, he knows his shit. Eamon. Mormont says that about Eamon. He's like, he's not blind, he may be not stupid.
And this is when we dive down to the huge rabbit hole of how Eamon was almost king.
So he was. His father's father was Daeron Targaryen, the second of his name, who brought Dorne into the realm. Part of the pact was that he wed a Dornish princess. She gave him 4 sons. Aemon's father, Maekar, was the youngest of those, and Aemon was his 3rd son. Mind you, all this happened long before I was born, ancient as Smallwood would make me.
Maester Aemon was named for the Dragon Knight?
So he was. Some say Prince Aemon was King Daeron's true father, not Aegon the Unworthy. Be that as it may, our Aemon lacked the Dragon Knight's martial nature. He likes to say he had a slow sword but quick wits. Small wonder his grandfather packed him off to the Citadel. He was 9 or 10, I believe, and 9th or 10th in line of succession as well.
Maester Aemon had counted more than 100 name days, John knew. Frail, shrunken, wizened and blind. It was hard to imagine him as a little boy, no older than Arya. Mormont continued.
Aemon was at his books when the eldest of his uncles, the heir apparent, was slain in a tourney mishap. He left 2 sons, but they followed him to the grave not long after. During the Great Spring Sickness, King Daeron was also taken, so the crown passed to Daeron's second son, Aerys.
The Mad King?
Jon was confused. Aerys had been king before Robert. That wasn't so long ago.
No, this was Aerys the First. The one Robert deposed was the second of that name.
How long ago was this?
80 years, close enough.
The old bear said.
And no, I still hadn't been born. Though Aemon had forged 6 links of his maester's chain by then, Aerys wed his own sister, as the Targaryens were wont to do, and reigned for 10 or 12 years. Aemon took his vows and left the citadel to serve at some Lord Link's court, until his royal uncle died without issue. The Iron Throne passed to the last of King Daeron's 4 sons. That was Maekar, Aemon's father. The new king summoned all his sons to court and would have made Aemon part of his councils, but he refused, saying that would usurp the place rightly belonging to the Grand Maester. Instead, he served at the keep of his eldest brother, another Daeron. Well, that one died too, leaving only a feeble-witted daughter as heir, some pox he caught from a whore, I believe. The next brother was Aerion.
Aerion the Monstrous?
Jon knew that name. The prince who thought he was a dragon was one of Old Man's more gruesome tales. His little brother Bran had loved it.
The very one, though he named himself Aerion Bright Flame. One night, in his cups, he drank a jar of wildfire after telling his friends it would transform him into a dragon. But the gods were kind, and it transformed him into a corpse. Not quite a year after, King Maekar died in a battle against an outlaw lord.
Jon was not entirely innocent of the history of the realm. His own maester had seen to that.
That was the year of the Great Council,
he said.
The lords passed over Prince Aerion's infant son and Prince Daeron's daughter and gave the crown to Aegon.
Yes and no. First they offered it quietly to Aemon, and quietly he refused. The gods meant for him to serve, not to rule, he told them. He had sworn a vow and would not break it, though the High Septon himself offered to absolve him. Well, no sane man wanted any blood of Aerion's on the throne, and Daeron's girl was a lackwit besides being female, so they had no choice but to turn to Aemon's younger brother, Aegon, the 5th of his name. Aegon the Unlikely, they called him, born the 4th son of a 4th son. Aemon knew, and rightly, that if he remained at court, those who disliked his brother's rule would seek out to use him. So he came to the wall, and here he has remained, while his brother and his brother's son and his son each reigned and died in turn, until Jaime Lannister put an end to the line of the Dragon Kings.
Kings!
Croaked the raven. The bird flapped across the solar to land on Mormont's shoulder.
King!
It said again, strutting back and forth.
All right, that's it. All right, so there's a lot to unpack
We
here.
can't unpack all this.
We're gonna unpack it. That's what we do. We're gonna go quick. Maekar. Who's Maekar?
I mean, I've definitely heard that name a bunch. Aemon's father.
Aemon's father. He's also the guy at the very end of the Book of the Hedge Knight who Dunk has that conversation with at the pool, who's like, yes, you can take Egg, my son, with you. Then we just say he's named after Dragon Knight, doesn't really matter. Aegon the Unworthy, doesn't really matter. He was a king who basically fucked a bunch of whores, had a bunch of bastards, so they called him the Unworthy. Then they say, more magnitude, Aemon was at his books when the eldest of his uncles, the heir apparent, was slain in a tourney mishap. That's the book we read. That's Baelon was killed by Maekar at the Astrid tourney.
Yep.
Right? So that's when Baelor died, so now the heir apparent is no longer
Baelor or
in the
Baelon?
picture. Baelon. You're right.
Okay.
It's Baelon. So then it goes to his second son, Aerys. Don't know anything about him. Aerys ruled for a little bit, died a little bit later. Then it says...
Why did it say he died? He died with something.
Without issue?
Without issue.
A kid, right?
Without issue means without a kid, yeah.
Okay.
Without issue of his
son.
body.
Yeah.
So then it says, the new king summoned... This is when Maekar, when Aemon's father became king, the new king summoned all his sons to court and would have made Aemon part of his council, but he refused, saying that would usurp the place rightly belonging to the Grand Maester. Instead, he served at the keep of his eldest brother, another Daeron. We know this one.
He's the
Character,
drunk.
and he's the drunk one. He's the
Yeah, that was the drunk one,
with
right?
Egg at the beginning, yeah. That's
Okay.
Aemon and Egg's older brother, Daeron. So then it goes on to say, well, that one died too, leaving only a feeble-witted daughter as his heir. Some pox he caught from a whore, I believe. Which is like funny. We don't know much about Daeron, but we know he's a fucking drunk, and then he dies from a pox, potentially from a pox he caught from a whore. So then the next brother that was left was Aerion. And then even Jon knows this one, Aerion the Monstrous. Again, this is a major character in the Hedge Knight. This is basically the asshole Targaryen, the one who kills the horse at the beginning against Sir Humphrey Harding, and who is like the challenger in the Trial of Seven.
He's the one that's beating up the puppeteer.
The puppeteer, exactly. Yeah, all that. Yep. So we hear of his end. Jon has heard of him. It says, Aerion the Monstrous, the one who thought he was a dragon. And Aemon
drinks fucking fire.
Drinks
wildfire.
fire.
I guess it's not fire. It's probably like Molotov cocktail gasoline, essentially.
It's based off, well, it's even worse. It's based off Greek fire, which is something that like the Greeks use.
Like napalm, right?
It kind of like napalm. Potentially, people said that we even to this day, we haven't been able to reproduce Greek fire, which was some weird, super hot type napalm Molotov cocktail mixture thing. Exactly. So he drinks it, and one more one says kind of funny. He thought it would transform into a dragon, but gods were kind and it transformed him into a corpse. So then, not a year later, King Maekar died in battle against an outlaw lord.
Not to go too far, but off track. But Viserys, I mean, kind of similar to that whole thing, like where he thinks he's the dragon, and then
exactly
he gets fucking. But then also Smelted. Dany is the dragon. She goes into the fire and lives. So I mean, that's not that far off, I guess.
Well, I feel like I told you in even in the Hedge Knight, I was like, I feel like Aerion reminds me a lot of Viserys, and you were like, I don't know, but maybe it's because I know he drinks wildfire. Also, I didn't get super mad because I didn't think you were going to think anything of it. But in the Hedge Knight podcast we did, Jeff did call Aerion Brightflame, which part of the reason they call him Aerion Brightflame is because of this.
I never picked that up.
And then it says he was innocent. He was not innocent to the history of the realm. His own maester had seen to that. That was the year of the Great Council, he said. The lords passed over Prince Aerion's infant son and Prince Darren's daughter and gave the crown to Aegon. Aegon is egg.
Aegon the Unlikely.
Duh.
So, I mean, Kyle knew this. Kyle, Glow, you weren't there for it, but on the back of Kyle's copy of The Hedge Knight, it said, like, something it's stupid. Right here. Yeah, just read it again for Glow. It just, like, literally...
What a crime. What a crime by the publisher.
Yeah, it says, tagging along with him is his diminutive squire, a boy called Egg, whose true identity must be kept hidden, for in reality he is Aegon Targaryen, and one day he will be king.
So, like,
it's like on the back.
Dead giveaway. Like,
it's like the first thing I did when I got it. I was like, I'm going to read the back, just see what I'm getting into, and then sure enough, like...
You get the whole book spoiled for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I went through that pretty quick. But that's like the whole history of like Egg and Egg's whole family, who's like Egg is like awesome from the.
And if you want that more, read The Hedge Knight or listen to us talk about
our podcast. Yeah. Anything
right.
you guys have on that, Kyle? Do you have anything else on that before Jeff skips ahead? I know we're going long.
The one thing I did have was that Aemon was quietly offered it, and he quietly refused.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that at all.
So.
He said, yeah, nah.
Pretty wild. I mean, like, you have the option to just kind of, like, take it over.
Even they offered him, even before that, they offered him Grand Maester, and he said no and went to serve Daeron.
Did he say no, or did his dad say no? I thought it was his dad that said no.
He said he didn't want to usurp
that guy's position. He's like, that guy's been here longer. He is better than me.
Yeah.
I think it's very honorable of him. I think that's kind of quietly refusing as well, is like he knew that he could better serve the realm or the people by being a maester rather than by being king.
But he left his other son, Daeron, just out to whore and drink. Like, he didn't give a shit about him, you know?
Whose other son?
Daeron is Aemon's older brother. No?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean, though?
So Daeron was just a lord somewhere. Why wasn't he on the council?
Well, he was the lord. He was the lord of a good castle. He was at a good castle.
Why wouldn't he have been, like, lord of ships or lord of money? Lord
because
of coin.
He had to be
master
at home.
Master of ships, master of coin.
He had to be at home, being lord of.
I don't know. He might have been.
They didn't literally just say like he wanted to bring all of his kids to council.
They did. Why wasn't?
Well, but
Daeron. How do you know that Daeron wasn't a fucking?
Aemon.
Well, Jeff said not Daeron because they sent Aemon to Daeron. So obviously Daeron wasn't there if they sent Aemon to him.
Yeah.
But you don't know, like maybe maybe Aemon was doing like what Lewin's doing, where he's like ruling the castle while Daeron was at council. Or actually, I mean, for being honest, Daeron's at Summerhall. God knows what that means, but that's where Daeron was. And I think Summerhall's close to King's Landing, so he might have been able to go back and forth.
Okay, all right. No, that's all I got. So,
and it said that he served at the keep of his eldest brother. It doesn't mean that his brother is there.
Yeah. So, like I said, it might have been a Lewin deal where Ned's gone, but Lewin's still in the castle.
Lewin is still serving at Ned's keep.
So after this, the long ass thing we just read, the raven is going nuts. Is it a raven or a crow?
Crow. A raven.
Raven.
Saying king. And John mentions that he likes that word. He says it's an easy word to say, easy word to like. It says king again. Rob's like, I think he wants you to have a crown.
Maybe you're going to be king, Mormont.
And he says the realm has three kings already, which is interesting, which means Mormont knows Joffrey. He said in the chapter, Joffrey, Robb, and Renly. So, I mean, we know Stannis is like kind of vying for it, throwing his hat in the ring, but Mormont doesn't know about that yet. And even people like Kat, who heard about Renly, are like, wow, that's weird that we heard about Renly and not Stannis. Mormont doesn't think anything of it. And then, so he's like, why'd you tell me about Aemon? He's like, did I need a reason? But it's because both you and him have a king for a brother. And he's like, yeah, but we also have a vow in common. And Mormont snorts and says, if he is a man for every vow he's seen broken, the wall would never lack for defenders. And John's like, I've always known Robb would be Lord of Winterfell. And then you guys do the quote to end the chapter. A lord's one thing, but king's another.
Can we stop there for a second before we, like, I don't really get the whole, like, importance of pulling John aside to be like, oh, your brother's going to be king. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, you're at the wall already. Like, what are you going to do? Ride down there?
He just wants to make sure he's not going to fucking run away again.
This whole conversation just seems
to do
weird.
what?
To get killed.
Like, they already had this conversation.
Just finish. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to say, Jeff. They had this conversation already.
Robb is now king. He could absolve John of a fucking vow. Boom. Done.
Yeah, but it sounds like they're, like, making it seem like John would be jealous of him and like, oh, no, I'm older than you. I'm the rightful king. Like, I'm the king of the North. And it's not. He's a bastard. Like, no one would ever follow.
This quote goes into what we're saying. Go ahead, Kyle.
A lord's one thing, a king's another.
He offered the raven a handful of corn from his pocket.
They will garb your brother Robb in silks, satins, and velvets of 100 different colors, while you live and die in black ringmail. You will wed some beautiful princess and father sons on her. You will have no wife, nor will you ever hold a child of your own blood in your arms. Robb will rule, you will serve. Men will call you a crow. Him will call your grace. Singers will praise every little thing he does, while your greatest deeds all go unsung. Tell me that none of this troubles you, John, and I'll name you a liar, and know I have the truth of it.
John drew himself up, taut as a bowstring.
And if it did trouble me, what might I do, bastard as I am?
What will you do?
Mormont asked.
Bastard as you are.
Be troubled,
said John.
And keep my vows.
I think, to go into what you guys were arguing about before, I think it's more of, this was him testing John again, to see where he stood in terms of the vows and being a brother. I mean, he's already, obviously, he's brought himself back with the whole lantern throwing stuff and whatnot, but at the same time, he did try and run away at some point, and there is a lot of stuff going on south that matters deeply to him. Yeah. So I think it's kind of just trying to prod at that a little bit more, at least, or kind of reassure or talk through some of that stuff before it becomes an actual problem.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. I just don't like the whole, like, oh, you can go south now and get absolved. Like,
did he say that?
No, but that was like Glow's argument. Like, it wouldn't be this conversation. That wouldn't be the conversation. The conversation would just hunt you down and kill you before you get to your brother for deserting. Right?
Yeah, I think you. Yeah,
this conversation is like, oh, you're jealous of your brother being king. Do you want to be king? What are you gonna like? And obviously, he can't do shit because he's a bastard. No one gives a shit about Jon Snow.
Well, I think it just
bastard
meant, like,
kid of Winterfell.
Like, you have to understand your place here. Like, no matter who your brother is, it doesn't matter. You have to understand your place here.
I mean, I get that they can't address. So my thing is, I understand what Kyle's saying. That they can't address the fact that Jon is getting this news that Robb just became king. Like, obviously, that would affect somebody. But I also agree with Jeff that they just had this conversation in the last chapter. Like, if you go to the last Jon chapter, it literally ends with, so I'll have an answer from you, Lord Snow, and I'll have it now. Are you a brother of the Night's Watch, or only a bastard boy who wants to play at war? Jon trained himself, took a long, deep breath. Forgive me, Father. Robb, Arya, Bran, forgive me. I cannot help you. He has the truth that this is my place. I'm yours, my lord. Your man, I swear, and I will not run again. The old bear snorted. Good, now go put on your sword. That's like the same ending to this chapter.
Yeah, but at that point, Robb wasn't king, though.
I understand they have to bring it up again, but I think they might have just, like, overdone
bullshit.
this.
Yeah, go ahead.
They overdone, like, they overdone like the whole like, John, are you a man or a man of the Night's Watch or not? And the only reason I'm letting it slide, and I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna end this if I'm choosing sides, I'm choosing Kyle and Glow side. The only reason I'm doing that is just because if you look at every other chapter 1 that we've had so far,
that's what I was gonna say.
It's just all recap. 1. It just all recap stuff.
1.
We're like, hey, here's where we're going from here. Here's how the last book ended. Is the only reason I'm allowing this.
A chapter recap,
and because I think this whole John, once Sam leaves, I think all that is gold. That's all A+ material from George. Once Sam's gone, even when Sam's there, this is all like.
I agree. I think
love
it's
this
all
chapter.
I think it's all good too, but I still don't understand. Like, all right, it's one thing to go and fight with your brother, but they're putting on this like, oh, you're jealous of your brother part of it. And
so I think you're reading that into it.
That doesn't make sense.
I get the jealous of Rob more than anything.
Jealous of his freedom and his opportunity to do anything else, I think, maybe.
But again, John chose to be at the wall. Like, it's like, you chose to be here.
I know, but these are still things that are going to follow him for his entire life.
Like, what
no
are they afraid
where
of?
he is or what he's
doing. But he chose to be at the wall. He could have been a high. Like, they already told him he was going to be a high.
He's already had second thoughts once about this choice.
But hang on,
That's
hang
what
on,
I'm saying.
hang on.
It's like these.
But hang on. So his second thoughts in the last time we heard in the last John chapter, where he's going to help John. I agree with Jeff.
Rob.
Like, what do you think, Kyle? You think in this chapter, like, what's his confliction? He's not like. It's not the same confliction as the last chapter.
I help Rob, but like there's this lavish life that your brother is about to live, and like.
So like, what's his option?
He doesn't have any. That's what he's trying to get John to say.
Yeah, but like what? So like, if you're John, like you can't at this point. If you like, in the last chapter, you wanted the dessert to help Rob. Here, like Jeff's saying, it's more like fuck. Not like fuck Rob, like obviously doesn't want to see that anything bad happen to him, but like fuck him. He has a way better than me, and there's nothing I can do about it.
But if he left,
like, what could John do?
Let's pretend there's no vow, right?
Yeah,
like he could just leave.
Say he didn't say his words yet.
It doesn't matter, even if he did. Like just pretend there's no vow, like right. So like you could leave at any time. He would have a cushy ass life with his brother being fucking king of the North.
Yeah,
he had a cushy ass life. He had a cushy ass life, and he wanted to leave it to not be the bastard.
Well, no, he couldn't stay though. He couldn't stay and hang out with Catelyn all day.
He's still gonna be the bastard of Winterfell.
But now Catelyn has less power because Rob is king. Like you're right. He did have a cushy life to begin with. You're right.
If the reason he left was just because like it was temporarily situationally bad because Ned wasn't going to be there and he was going to be alone with like 2 people and Cat, then that's just stupid on him. Like I'm not going to make a life vow because the next couple years of my life are going to be shitty.
15-year-old
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
So my one argument, like if we're going to say like this conversation was for the recap aspect of it, then recap this at the beginning before he walks down and finds Sam. Be like, oh yeah, like my brother's fighting a war. Like I wanted to fight with him, but my brother's brought me back. Oh, here I am going to find Sam down in the library. Like it just doesn't make sense to me of this. Oh yeah, I guess you're jealous, but like, why is everyone afraid of him going? Like he can't do shit. Like he's not gonna go fight, like go down. It's
like jealousy of Rob. I think it's maybe jealous of Rob's life. I don't think he's saying like you're gonna go try and take over as
John's
king.
Definitely jealous of Rob. You're crazy. Like even
Obviously,
John's thought to himself is like, we shared our first cup of wine together.
But everyone's asking him like, oh, like are you okay?
That's like the hint of like Rob's better than me. And even like to Lord Mormont, he says like, I've always known he was going to be Lord of Winterfell. Like I always knew that he was better than me or he was going to be treated better than me.
But the 2 people that have brought it up now, but it's like you don't have to like pussyfoot around it. Like the dude's king now, you're at the wall. Like I don't know. Like, hey, how do you feel about it? Like they're like being psychiatrists to him. Like, grow the fuck up. You're a man of the Night's Watch. We're going north tomorrow. Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
A lot of these chapters feel samey for John because there's people having these conversations to him, whether it's like Benjen at the end of a chapter or Tyrion or Mormont or Aemon or whoever being like, yo, you're a man. Like literally that's how John chapters all end is like,
hey, are you really sure you want to be here? Are you really sure you want to be here? Are you really sure you want to be here?
But what's interesting is that they're all like completely different like emotions or like triggers for it, right? So like the first one is like, oh, Ned's thrown in the cells and John's like, I want to go save him. Right. And the second one's like, oh, Rob's doing an army. And John's like, OK, now I'm definitely going to go save him.
Well, even
Benjen. But then it's Ned's dead. And John's like, conflicted, or the order might be wrong, but John's like conflicted, like Ned's dead, like fuck that, and he wants to like leave, and like what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, and even like, Benjen was like, look, make sure, like, you're never going to have a wife here. You're never going to have a kid. Like, you're never going to have your own house. Like, all that stuff. Like, are you sure you want to be here?
This one's 100% jealousy, I think. I think this isn't like I want to
go.
For sure. He has no urge to go help anybody like he did in all the other conflicts in him, right? This one's like, fuck Rob. He doesn't, like...
It's not really even fuck Rob.
It's not even 100% on this.
What Rob even gets.
That's what I was trying to say, is that he's jealous of his life, not of... Like, I don't think he's jealous to kill Rob, I guess is more of what I meant by he's not jealous. He doesn't
wish it will for Rob at all in that way.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say before.
It's just like, and what you can 100% say where John's coming from. It's 100% unfair. This, like,
it's not unfair.
He had nothing to do with his parentage.
Yeah, so I think these conversations and reinforcements need to continue to happen to some degree.
The thing is, if John, and obviously, like, hindsight's 20/20, if John would have just stayed there for a little bit longer and dealt with Catelyn's wrath, and Rob went to war, guess who's right next to him? Jon fucking Snow. Is like his right-hand man fighting with him. So,
dude, Ghost and Grey Wind on the battlefield, dude, that'd be dope.
Catelyn didn't want him there without Ned as well, so it wasn't all his decision. It's another thing I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
I've been saying Cat's a bitch for a long time.
He was definitely for the Night's Watch, but she definitely was kind of pushing it as well. So, all right, just for sake of time.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I don't really know. I don't have any predictions, but I hope they fucking go north next time.
The next chapter will start north of the wall. I'll tell you that. Next chapter starts north.
Well,
of the wall. Spoiler.
They better. That's all I gotta say.
All right.
All right, Cal.
Bye, Cal.
We'll see you on the next show, bud.
All right, see you guys later.
Bye, Kyle.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, Kyle. It was great hanging out, bud.
Bye, Kyle.
We'll see you on the next episode for Catelyn 1 of, A Clash of Kings. And now, on to the spoiler section of John 1. Boys, what are your hot takes for this sode?
So I agree with Nelson. This is a better chapter on the surface than, maybe deeper than the surface than you would think at first, just reading it.
It's better than on the surface.
Yeah. For Kyle, he was like, oh, this chapter sucks. But, like, obviously we know more of what's going on. I was pretty passionate about, the whole point of bringing it up to John. I still don't see the point of that the way that they did.
Do you think he did it that way just to foreshadow John potentially becoming king?
Well, so that's like the one big note I think we all have is the Raven going king, 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 looking at John.
Well, so I was reading into that. Is Mormont looking at John or is the Raven looking at John?
I think they're both looking at John because it's on Mormont's shoulder, right?
Yeah.
You think because Mormont wants John to be king is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it's saying foreshadow that John's gonna be king.
I think way more important than that is that here there's all this talk about Mormont being old and frail, and two of the things that the Raven shouts is like old and strong.
Okay.
And then later, when he's trying to decide where to make camp, he decides to make camp at the Fist of the First Men. Which is a lot of people say it's a bad idea. And then the Raven the whole time then is croaking, whatever noise ravens make. Old, strong, old, strong, old, strong. People are like, oh, the Raven is what's influencing this jraijin because he's influencing Mormont's decisions on like where they stop and all that shit.
Yeah, but at the same time, don't they get fucked at the Fist of the First Men?
Exactly.
So it's not strong.
So who knows? Well, no, but that's what the Raven's saying. Yeah. So who knows? Who's telling the Raven to say that? And what do the people who's telling the Raven to say that?
So what's the point of him saying king, 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 king? I think it's definitely foreshadowing that Jon is king-ish / Jon's a Targaryen. That was the one of the notes I had.
Nah, Jon's nothing.
You think the three-eyed Raven?
Yeah, you just say that because it doesn't fit your idea, your agenda. Yeah, it's completely against Jon just being like a Dane or whatever you think he is.
I guess.
Why would he say king? If we're gonna say that the Raven's words matter, and obviously Kyle should pick up on it because you made sure that we mentioned every single one.
Did.
we can't look over him saying king, 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 king
but
to Jon.
He says so much other stuff like me, and snow.
Well, so he says me when he brings up Lord Commander, and the three-eyed raven used to be a Lord Commander. Right? Am I wrong? Am I right?
Does he? Is that when he says it? If so, that's genius.
Yeah. It's talking about Lord Commander. I noticed that when I was reading it earlier. That was the only note I had.
But yeah, I mean that's definitely one of the bigger notes I had was that, man, is Jon going to be king? It seems really weird if we're going to care about what this Raven says.
Glow, that's crazy. Hold on. What Glow just said is actually crazy. It's when Thorin Small was talking about like the Lord Commander and shit like that. Lord Commander should be here, and then Raven's like me, which is actually kind of nuts because he was he Lord Commander? I think he was, right?
He had to be, right? Right? Wrong? Am I right?
Wait, who?
I can't think of his real name.
He was on the wall, Blood Raven.
Yeah, but like,
was he Lord Commander?
I could be mixing
so. He was on the wall for 13.
Or is he saying
13 years? I feel like he was.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, then in that room, 3 Lord Commanders are there.
Raven, Mormont, Jon.
Yeah,
that's pretty
Sam
neat,
after Jon dies.
Nah,
Sam's about to be
Lord Commander.
Yeah, beginning of Winds of Winter. Sam's gonna be Lord Commander when Jon dies, and Jon's gonna come back.
Isn't he at the Citadel?
Why would they vote Jon or Sam, dude?
Huh?
Why would they vote Sam? That's stupid.
I'm just saying, it'd be cool.
He's not even there. He's not getting back to the wall.
He's not even there. So I was funny how when Kyle's like, when I was like telling Kyle like, oh, I know why Sam's going north, and it's like because he's about to kill a fucking White Walker, bitch.
Let's go.
Sam didn't. Kyle didn't know that though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Sam the Slayer.
So what are you saying about George R.R. Martin interviews?
So people always give him shit, not give him shit, but people say like, oh, the thing George is great at is like people just die unexpectedly and you never know who's safe. But then like one of the tropes in like fantasy and sci-fi that people really don't like, that like the people say it kind of ruins shit sometimes when people come back to life because it doesn't make death meaningful. And they're like, so George, you're like known for like killing anybody, but like when you have resurrection in your stories, how does that like, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of anybody being safe all the time? And he's like, yeah, but when my people come back, they're completely different. And he's like just look at Lady Stoneheart or look at Barrack. He's like, when Barrack comes back every single time, he forgets more and more about his previous life. He doesn't remember the castle he used to live in. He doesn't remember his old wife. All he remembers is the oath that he swore to Ned Stark to go kill the Mountain. Like that's all he's become. So he talked about like how when people get resurrected, they're completely different. So there's no way that like when Jon Snow comes back, like it is in the show, where he's just going to be like, oh, I'm Jon Snow. Let's just keep doing my Jon Snow shit. You know what I mean?
It depends.
It just depends how they bring him back too. I think if he comes back more,
it was just a general statement. George wasn't talking about the Red God. He was just talking about like when you come back from death, you're a different person than you were before you died.
So I'll agree to. And I kind of want to piggyback off what Glow saying, like, Lady Stoneheart was dead and at the bottom of the river for X amount of time, right?
Yep.
It seems like when they bring Barrack back, they bring him back pretty fucking quick.
You don't think Jon's going to be dead for a long time?
So...
I think he's going to go into a coma, dude. You know, he's in the fucking cold.
So the fan Glow, what's the fan theory on what's going to happen to Jon? Or Jeff, if you know it.
There's a million fan theories, but
there's a popular one. The most popular one.
I like the one where my girl saves him because she's like a fucking woods witch.
So the most popular theory is based on the prologue of A Dance with Dragons, which is the book where Jon dies at the end. Varamir Sixskins, who is a warg, when he dies, he goes and lives his second life. He tries to live a second life inside a person, does it? He can't, and he ends up living his second life inside his wolf. So most people, and again, like what's the last word that Rob says?
Jon, and he says ghost.
What?
Or so Rob says at the Red Wedding?
Rob's last words when he dies at the Red Wedding are Grey Wind. And Jon's last words are Ghost.
Ghost, yeah.
So is Rob living or Grey Wind's dead? So.
It just sucks for Rob because Rob dies. Rob dies and then goes to Grey Wind's body and then dies again. Which super sucks for Rob.
This is my theory. When Jon comes back, he's not like he's gonna lose some of his reservation. He's going to be more wolf-like, more berserk, like go crazier more often.
Yes, that's the big theory, is that Jon, now that he has died, is living in Ghost, and depending on how long he has to live in Ghost,
He just
whenever
vicious.
Melisandre does some the theory is Melisandre's going to do some shit involving a serene sacrifice that basically makes Jon's body able to warg back into, where Jon can warg from Ghost back into his own body type thing.
Ooh.
I hope it's more old gods.
It's kind of like that's some Voldemort shit there.
But wouldn't it be dope as fuck as if we got like a chapter from Ghost's perspective watching Shireen's death, and then all of a sudden,
what if Bran plays a part in it? What if Bran can play a part in it?
I mean, any way they do it'd be cool. But I mean, the only reason I brought that up with here was because we're talking about Jon. I don't have too much else to go on in this chapter, and the whole Jon's dead. The whole Jon's dead at the end of all this shit, and like at the end of where we are now. Like I joked with Kyle, like, well, we thought Jon would be dead by now. Well, Jon is dead where we are at the end of the books. Where we are at, Jon's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'll just kind of go in order of what I think is kind of like new shit. We get mentioned to Qhorin Halfhand. Obviously, he becomes a big part of the story for Jon.
What is that? The end of this book or the beginning of the next one?
What in the middle of this book, he meets up with Qhorin. Yep.
All right, and then he kills him at the end, right?
Yeah.
And
so there's a lot of theories about like Qhorin is a seasoned. We'll get into a lot of this, but I'll give you just like I get a lot of this from Preston.
I don't think we
Jacobs'
need to spend
YouTube.
too much time. Yeah,
I won't. But just to highlight, we get a lot of this from Preston Jacobs' YouTuber. The thing is, like the big theory is, Qhorin is an experienced Shadow Tower Ranger. Why the fuck does he take Jon with him? Who's a green boy, and he has a wolf who distinctively sticks out at nighttime. Also,
whoa, sticks out at nighttime. It's fucking snowy out there, dog.
He's white though.
Yeah, but he just lay down.
They say multiple times that like Ghost makes them stick out at nighttime, and like once they get spotted, Ghost is the only reason that Orell's Raven's able to track them.
I didn't know that
because of Ghost.
I mean it's been a while since I've read.
Basically, like Qhorin on his ranging takes a bunch of people who all have important roles, and then Jon, who doesn't really have any role at all except for being a Stark. And the theory is, Qhorin wanted Jon. He knew from the very get-go Jon's getting turned over to the Wildlings, and they're only going to accept him because he's a Stark. And the whole Bael the Bard, Blue Rose theory, that whole nonsense, right? Because Stark and Wildlings have the same blood based on that story, which is a story that Ygritte tells Jon. So basically, that's the theory, is that Qhorin plans all this. But yeah, we've heard about Qhorin already before, just in passing, just about the same amount we've heard in this chapter. Halfway through the first book, Jon mentions like something about him being at the Shadow Tower, being either a fearsome ranger or the Lord. I don't know if he's the commander. I don't think he's the commander of the Shadow Tower, but just being like one of the
he's probably like
rangers.
Is he first ranger over there? Maybe just like
I don't know how that works, but yeah,
head ranger of that tower. Yeah. So another thing I had was that when they talk about them going whoring, and like obviously Jon turned down, and he was like, "Oh, I took a vow." It doesn't take him long to break that vow once he meets our girl.
Yeah, that's true.
It kind of does take him a while. He needs some convincing to fuck Ygritte.
Well, again, I don't think he would do it if it wasn't for what we just said, Qhorin Halfhand. If it wasn't for Qhorin Halfhand saying do whatever they say, don't balk, then I don't think he would have done it. But it's also interesting. That quote, Jeff, I feel like they replaced with a different scene in the books where him and Sam are like cleaning a table, and Sam's like, he's like, "Oh, I was in a room with Rawls," and he's like. And he's like, good boobs, and Jon's like, oh yeah, and Sam's like, oh what, you didn't know where to put it?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I thought about my mother and how I don't know her name, and how somewhere there's a mother with a bastard named Snow who never met, and I didn't want to do that. And Sam's like, oh, so you didn't know where to put it?
Yeah, that's definitely the show.
That shows.
And then they start. He tackles him. He tackles him, but Alistair's there. Alistair's
that's how I know it's before this.
Boy lover,
yeah, that's how I know it's before this. But it's like that. Basically, that is the same as this. Yeah.
Do we need to talk about these kids and men from Goldtown at all?
Satin, the boy horror becomes Jon Stewart. So what becomes what Jon is to Lord Commander becomes he is to Jon. So he is Jon Stewart. Okay. Also, next chapter, we are north of the wall. We're at White Tree, which is the first it's actually the fourth wildling village they come across. But it's our first introduction to one of my favorite characters. Jeff, yes, you should know this.
Craster?
No, he's at White Tree. So he's in the Night's Watch. We just haven't heard of him yet. One of my favorite Night's Watch characters. Literally one of my favorite characters in the book.
It's the fucking
Dolores Ed.
Dolores.
What's his name?
Dolores Ed. Ed Tullett. Dolores Ed Tullett. Yeah. He just like super gloomy about everything.
You do love Ed.
I love, dude. Every time we're gonna get a ton of quotes.
Is
from
he Ed in the show, or he's that guy, right? Like
he's Don O'Noy.
No, he's the only guy at the Battle of Winterfell with John. Yeah, he's the only guy at the Battle of Winterfell with John and Sam.
And when John leaves, he's like, my watch is. I did die for the watch. Like he gives it to Ed. Right?
Yeah, he gives Ed the cloak. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't do all that in the show, or in the books, but yeah, Ed just the one who's like always super gloomy, and he's like, I hope the dead don't come walking. He's like, I never had anything good to say when I was alive. And when they go into when they're at White Tree, John walks in. He's like, this is literally the worst house I've ever seen. How could I live in this? And Ed says out loud, like, oh, reminds me of my house when I used to live in luxury. After that, I became homeless. And then he sees like a pile of straw in the corner. He's like, oh, what a wonderful bed. I wouldn't love to sleep in a bed again. And then John's like, you think that's a bed? I just love Ed. He just like has always just like he's like the Eeyore of the Night's Watch.
All right. So I feel like we have one. I did not remember that Don O'Noy was Storm's End armor.
Yeah, I did not know that. Yeah,
I feel like we talked about that in the first book, but yeah, we only really see Don O'Noy once or twice in the first book. So and we only ever see him. This is probably the only time we see him in this book too, because John's about to go north for the entire book. So
this quote by him has to matter.
The medal. So Glow kind of said it. I was saving it for this one, but Glow, you said what medals, Rob?
Bronze.
So that's what they make the crown out of. The northern crown is made of bronze, and Kat talks about that in the next chapter they're about to get to. So I think bronze is probably like a good medal for Rob. I don't know what I don't know what Don O'Noy would say the qualities of bronze are, but Rob doesn't last too long in our story, so.
I mean, I'm thinking more of like Stannis. Like Stannis is gonna break. So I know you said at one point like Stannis is about to fight Ramsay, right?
He's still a contender. I think he's gonna win the Battle of Winterfell. Yeah, I don't think it goes at all with the show. I think Stannis is gonna beat Ramsay.
Well, he's breaking at some point. You'd have to think.
I don't know. I have a tough opinion on this one. He could either break against the Lannisters. I just want him to beat Ramsay.
I think he's got to be Ramsay. Just based on where the story is at, I feel like he's got to be Ramsay. But George R. Martin's great at flipping it upside down. So I
think it's kind of
if he loses, which he probably will, because that's how the show goes, right?
What did you want to read about the Battle of the Bastards, though?
I don't think John better be fucking like we said at the beginning. John better be so what I hope is that when John wakes up, he is just full. I'm a Night's Watch guy, because that's what happens to Beric. It's like the mission he was on when he died. Like he forgot about his past life. He forgot about his wife.
What was the mission that John was on when he died?
I don't give a fuck about that.
I'm leaving the fucking Night's Watch to go save Arya.
I think it'd be better if he was just like a stone cold hardcore Night's Watch guy, and he was like, "I'm the one who's gonna fight Nelson."
No, it's such bullshit. How you pull the words in the mission to your agenda.
That was bullshit.
This is all my theory. I'm not pulling this from any YouTube video or anything.
Yeah, but you'll shut us down like it's like, no, I read this, blah, I watched this video. No, it's not gonna happen. Like you can't just shut our thoughts down. Like I'd love to read about the fucking Battle of the Bastards. I don't give a shit how it fits your storyline and your agenda. I think it would be fucking
You're
dope.
just a show I just don't like that because
you don't like that episode? You don't like that episode?
I do like that episode, but fuck the show. They don't have Rickon. Rickon's what makes it.
Fuck Rickon. I can give two shits.
Without Rickon, that episode's way less cool.
And it pisses me off that Sansa doesn't fucking tell Jon that the Vale's coming.
Huh?
At the Battle of the Bastards, Sansa doesn't tell Jon that the Vale is coming to join them, saving thousands of lives.
In the book, Sansa is not.
You don't know that she got word back. You just know that she asked for them.
In the book, Sansa's not even at the wall. It's Arya. It's Jean Poole. How is she gonna get the fucking army of the Vale?
This is the one thing I can say. What if Jon wakes up from his death and he's just angry about everyone that turned on Robb?
Okay.
So he makes it his mission to kill the Boleyns, to kill the Lannisters, to do all that shit. Like, why does he have to be like, oh, I'm just a Night's Watchman? Why can't his mission be avenge the Starks?
It can. I just think him being fight the army of the dead, which is the thing that we know is the biggest threat throughout the books, and Jon is like the only one that's ever cared about it. Where he's like, yeah, the wildlings, I know we all hate them. Let's let them through because we have a way bigger problem on our hands. It would just suck for him to wake up and be like, you know what? I'm just going to do what all these other fucking idiots have done and join the Game of Thrones and leave our entire continent undefended, which is exactly what happens in the fucking show.
Okay,
and
so let's say
that's fucking stupid to me.
So are you saying like the big battle versus the whites is going to be at the wall, and they just win a battle at the wall, and then I just think and then the story goes where?
I don't know, if Jon wakes up and he's way more like, I'm 100% wall guy. Stannis wins the battle of Winterfell and comes back to Jon and is like, yo, you promised me that you would have all these castles manned by the end of the year, and if you didn't, I would get them. And Jon's like, fuck you, I'm the wall guy now. Like, and there's a huge conflict between Jon and Stannis, and they fight. That's better to me than the battle. I mean, the Battle of Bastards, sure, cool. I mean, it's awesome, but I don't know. I don't think you don't need it. You don't need it
Stannis, at all. I was stabbed. I was a little preoccupied.
I just don't like. I didn't say you need it either, but it's definitely a cool fucking battle.
You have so many cool battles.
I don't know. If Stannis fighting Ramsay in the storm, the coolest part about the
battle is the Rickon part, I think, right or no?
Dude, no way, dude. The whole fucking thing, like Jon. Besides,
like what you can do with like cameras that you can't do with with writing, right?
Yes,
the most interesting part.
He's good enough to do it.
I'm just saying,
he writes well enough.
You can write well enough. Yeah, there's people fighting people. You can write that in every single battle ever. You can write that interestingly. But the most interesting
we
part
talked about the Whispering Woods for an hour.
Exactly. We didn't even get a point of view.
Sure. So you're telling me, like, if you're Jon in the middle of this fucking battle, like, when have we gotten a point of view? Tyrion at Blackwater is an awesome chapter.
Yeah.
Right? So let's just imagine Jon in the middle of this battle for Winterfell.
I'm saying, yeah, I understand. And I'm saying Jon will be in battles. I'm saying, why does it have to be the Battle of Winterfell? The thing that makes the Battle of Winterfell...
That's just the one that we've seen. We've just seen that one.
I'm saying, yeah, the Battle of Bastards is cool because of a few things. One, right? The Vale coming in to save the day.
Yeah, the Giant. The Giant was awesome.
The Giant, Rickon, the Vale. You'd probably get Giant still, but you wouldn't get the Vale or Rickon if you had it in the books.
We don't know that. Sansa's still at the Vale. Maybe she just fucking comes. Like,
nah, I don't know. I don't think so.
We don't know. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, you can't just shoot me down when none of us know anything, and that's my problem. Like, you just shoot us down.
I'm saying that's what's most exciting. I'm saying that's what's exciting about the books is that I think hopefully whatever we get is different than the show, and it gives us new content.
And obviously, I think it's going to be too. But like, you can't just like shoot us down as fact when you have no fucking clue either.
Yeah, no.
I didn't mean when I said no, I didn't mean like no, that's not going to happen. I meant like no, I don't want that to happen. Like fuck that. Like I'd rather have Stannis win and all this other shit happen.
I think if Stannis is
just because it's
I think if Stannis at Winterfell, it's kind of lame. I don't know.
I'll go next. One of the things I have from before yours, I only have two things. This one's short. It just says Tyrion was here. There was a chapter where Tyrion woke up in this library, wasn't it? Wasn't Tyrion reading some of these books, or was that in Winterfell?
I think so, yeah.
I know there was one in Winterfell. There was one in Winterfell, but I thought he might have been reading books here too.
Yeah, I'm sure he did, right? That's all he did was read and drink wine. I don't know if he was down in the library, though. Like,
yeah, I don't think he was. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe
that was in Winterfell.
I was basically wondering if Tyrion read any of these books. Probably not, yeah. Because I remember we said Tyrion read some of the books. Tyrion even thought to himself, I think, that he read some of the books for the last time in Winterfell because since they burned up, they weren't there anymore. And he was the last one to ever read them.
Is there anything to the point of this library is so unorganized that when it is the battle of versus the whites that they don't have the books readily available to figure out how to fight them?
I just think it's interesting. Like, it would definitely be a worthwhile task to, like, when you get back from this ranging, just have Sam go live down there for, like, 2 months and just sort as much out as he can. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much info down there.
Well, and the problem is, like, he's going to have to organize it, one, to find out what he's actually reading. And so it's just like another, right. And he's like, oh, well, this book is just about how many times this guy shit his pants. Yeah. And this one's, the one that we really need like is under this stack over here. Right. Yeah.
Like 52,000 shits. He's like, that was steps.
just a great line. But yeah, like there's got to be something to the library being disheveled when they need to figure out how they're going to find whatever, if it's the dragon glass or I guess it's a dragon glass, right? They're gonna have to go to Dragonstone to get dragon glass, right? If they're gonna win this battle,
that's going somewhere. Eventually, somewhere in the story, they're gonna end up going to Dragonstone for dragon glass. Sure, 100%.
It's the only thing that's right from the show.
Yeah, for sure. The only other thing I had,
I'm just gonna keep pulling more. There's got to be more show shit. They can't just been shooting at the hip with whatever. No, 100%.
There's more stuff in the show that's true, but I don't know. I think some of it they just lost. There's just shit.
Like, how important is Danny gonna? Like, what if Danny just comes with the dragons and she actually just like mows them all down?
But way before Danny, Westeros has Fagon. Fagon is here. He's about to attack. Like,
I think he's gonna die. I think he dies.
His first chapter in Winds of Winter, or like close to it. He's like in the last chapter in Dance of Dragons. He's planning his attack on Storm's End. So like,
and why would he attack Storm's End? Who's there?
Probably nobody.
Isn't fucking Tyrell there?
It's just on the way. I think they
wasn't
just
there a siege.
There were people, I feel like there were people there, and they just pulled them back to the capital for some reason. Like Cersei just pulled everyone back from the capital, so it's lightly defended is why they're attacking, and just because they landed at Rook's Rest.
What's the Tyrell brother? Lancel? Loras
Tyrell.
Wasn't he like at a siege at Storm's End?
He was at a siege at Dragonstone. He tried to take Dragonstone back, and apparently was like really fucked up. But a lot of people think, and Cersei's happy about that, but a lot of people think that he's like that people just told Cersei he's fucked up, but he's not really fucked up. We're way off track. The only other thing I had for this chapter was Tywin. There's a part where John's talking to Mormont, and he's like, Tywin says you can find anything north of the wall. When he's like, I wish we had another hand, white hand. And he's like, Tywin says there's 15-foot bears. And he's like, I don't believe in 15-foot bears.
I believe in dead men.
When we hear about the giants, we hear about they're like 14, 15 feet tall.
Is he wearing bear skin?
And they're super hairy. That they have like really, really thick hair all over them. That they look
I feel like the giants are bigger than 15. Maybe they are 15 foot. That's
like,
pretty fucking big.
They're like 14, 15 feet. Yeah, I think they're like 14, 15
feet.
Feet.
Pretty big.
So I think it's probably just Tywin saw a giant. Maybe like they saw a giant in the distance and thought it was a bear and told Mormont about it. That's the only like little maybe hint I had. It's also interesting how Kyle is, even though that there's writings like Sam's found books about it, Kyle's still skeptical on like Children of the Forest and giants and those types of things.
Well, yeah, he was definitely just like against the magic part of it. Like it's gonna get pretty fucking magical soon.
Yeah, is he gonna hate the books?
I don't think so. I think he's pretty invested. But when he finds out that like Barrick's gonna come back to life after the Hound kills him, like
we've already had some of that. We've heard like Kyle's even said that before. Like it's interesting because before like there's been a chapter where I was like, oh yeah, we heard Barrick did this, and Kyle's like, yeah, I saw that too, but like didn't Barrick get stabbed by the mountain? Because like we heard already that he got killed by the mountain at the crossing of the Red Fork. Or the Red Fork.
Well, we don't know that he dies though, right? We just know that they were fighting each other.
Well, I think we heard that he got like stabbed with a lance or something. And Kyle's like, wait, shouldn't he be dead?
He got killed or something, yeah.
Kyle said like, shouldn't he be dead? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just his men. So you're right. He is going to be like, whoa, what is that when he comes back? But what I know about Kyle, is that Kyle likes fantasy books, like fantasy with magic and a lot of shit. He thought that he wasn't going to like Game of Thrones because there wasn't going to be enough of that in there.
Oh.
And I think
it adds I think with the magic and the religion aspect of it, with like religion is more or less magic to me in this book.
Okay.
The old gods is pretty fucking magical. The red god, the faceless, like all that shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's just pretty cool. I think he'll enjoy it.
I don't think he would have liked it as much if it wasn't for this podcast. I think like us keeping him like realizing all the intricacies and stuff like that and helps
it's
him
definitely
a little
hard.
bit.
I mean, even like this is the second time. How many times have you read Clash of Kings, Glow?
This is my second time.
Okay. You read just one of them like multiple times? You're just a weirdo?
I read the first book multiple times and the last book multiple times.
Interesting.
I think I've read Game of Thrones 3 times and then Dance of Dragons twice.
Okay. Like there's still shit in...
Because I thought the Winds of Winter was coming out. I was like, all right, let me refresh real quick and read Winds of Winter.
Well, wouldn't you need to read The Feast of Crows too?
All right. I didn't like that book, so...
You're crazy. You're going to like it in the second read through.
I think so.
We're going long enough, and I don't have
Wait, I have another one.
Go ahead.
There's a question on who Daeron's father is.
Yeah. So do you guys know
What
anything
the
about
fuck
this?
happens? No. What's going on there?
So his father, his known father, his accepted father, is Aegon the Unworthy.
The slut.
Okay.
The slut.
Who's the one that like caused all the Blackfire, bitter
Because
steel
he
shit.
had so many
Because he had all these
bastards.
bastards, and on his deathbed, he legitimized them all.
Right.
So apparently, and I don't know the history of this enough, but apparently because the thing about this is all after dragons are dead. And once dragons are dead, it's out of fire and blood territory. So like it's out of the
Which the history book that you read.
the history book that I read. Yeah. So like we know like some of this, a little bit of this history, but like not enough to like have a whole history book on it. So pretty much what we know is what we know here, where what I told you, Aegon the Unworthy, he's the one who like had all these bastards, legitimized them on his deathbed. Aegon the Dragon Knight, who was like this badass, I think he was like a brother to a king. He was never a king. He was like I think he was like a brother to a king or something like that. He like just was a badass in fighting and shit like that. And apparently he might have been the father of Daemon, not Aegon the Unworthy. So like he might have fucked Aemon the Unworthy's wife. I forget who it was, but
That's pretty unworthy.
yeah, yeah,
Pretty fucked up.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think the most important part of this is that the Crow Raven was looking at Jon saying king, king, king. So Jon's a Targaryen. He's going to be the king.
Maybe we'll see.
I agree.
I think there's a lot of I like all the Targaryen references to all the shit that we just read in the Hedge Knight, especially when you realize the release order. We read it in release order where it's Game of Thrones, Hedge Knight, this. Like at some point near the end of near the end of writing Game of Thrones, the writing of Hedge Knight, and the middle of Clash of Kings, George figured a fuck ton of the Targaryen history out. You know what I mean? Like when you start writing a book like Game of Thrones, you don't need to know all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But like by now,
he was like, "All right, let me sit down and figure this shit out real quick."
I think this is a really good proof that by now he has a lot of that shit figured out.
Can you say, Nelson, that the whole mention of the Aemon storyline and this whole thing, and then the king to Jon, gives a little bit of proof to Jon maybe being a Targaryen?
100%, because the thing that he's relating, the thing that I'll give you that you guys didn't bring up was,
where's Jon at in the line of succession?
Well, no, he's relating
because the Raven is influencing Mormont to talk about the Targaryens to brush up on Jon's lineage.
What I'm just saying is he's relating, in all of this is him saying, I'm relating you and Aemon. You both have a king for a brother.
Yeah.
Well, what's something else that happened to Aemon? He was offered a kingship.
Yeah.
So like he's literally comparing two people, you and Aemon.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're the one.
And I brought it up in the
this other guy was also
non-spoiler
offered a
that he was
kingship.
quietly offered it. And
When was Jon offered a kingship?
He wasn't, but like maybe that will also happen to Jon. It's another thing that him and Aemon will have in common. Is that I think what you could 100% read from this. And I think it would be cool if Jon, like we all know in the show, what was like the famous line from season 8 that everyone made fun of because Jon didn't have any real dialogue except for, I don't want it, right? Maybe he gives up and says, I don't want to be king, just like Aemon does, right? That I think that is the biggest thing that you can get from this episode.
I can completely see that Jon doesn't want it at the end of the day. Him just like
Aemon.
Him just like going north,
vow or whatever. I already swore a vow, whatever. It comes out that he's a Targaryen and he still served in the Night's Watch. I think that's the coolest thing.
Him just like riding
Too
north.
bad, guys. He's still king beyond the wall right now.
But yeah.
I think what happens in the show where he's like, I'm dead, I'm not the Night's Watch anymore, and just gives his cloak away, I don't think that goes over. I don't think that just would be okay in the books. Maybe it would. I don't know. I think it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, well, it's kind of weird how he does that, but then like once he gets back Winterfell, it turns back to we need to fight the White Walkers.
It's like the vows say all my nights. The vows don't say until I die. They say all. And
until my watch is ended.
I pledge my life in honor to the Night's Watch for this night and all the nights to come. All the nights to come. Like Jon can't just be like, oh, I'm good. Here, take my thing. I'm gone. There's more nights that are gonna come, buddy. Like,
I don't know.
I really did not like that part of the show where Jon's like, I'm out.
Well, it's like if you get a life sentence and you die and they bring you back to life.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with it. I was like, you had that life. He got another life.
Like, I agree with what you're saying. Like what the show did for like at least a season and a half or so with Jon after he left the Night's Watch, I think was really badass and cool. But I think that scene where he left the Night's Watch was stupid, and if he stays in the Night's Watch and is like kind of like a super hardened zombie John, I think that's a cooler part of the story, especially if you consider that Stannis might win, and then John and Stannis have already had all these like weird agreements before.
It's definitely weird with Stannis still being in the mix. It's definitely weird with Stannis and John having a deeper relation than what they had in the show.
I mean, they had a little bit of a relationship in the show too. Like they met a few times. They meet a few times in the books too. But
it was never to the point of like, hey, did he ever say in the show like, hey, you can have Winterfell when I'm king? Like, I don't remember that.
I think he did.
I don't know. They also don't have Val in the show, and it pisses me off.
In both of them,
I don't think it is, but
in both of them, I think he says, "I'll name you Lord Stark of Winterfell," and then the next thing that happens is Johnny gets elected Lord Commander.
Yeah, maybe. But
which is why he decides to stay.
It's definitely it could foreshadow him being the King of the North. It could foreshadow him being a Targaryen.
It could foreshadow him being King of Beyond the Wall.
There's a ton of stuff that could be foreshadowed. I just think, and I think any of it could be possible. I don't think that anything of what you guys are saying is out of the realm of possibility at all. I just think what would be coolest is if everything I said, where John just stayed at the wall, and like crazy John.
If John just stays at the wall, I think that's a waste of a character at the end of the day.
Well, John's a waste of a character anyway, in my opinion.
Whoa.
So, wait, no, it's just like, so he stays at the wall, the White Walkers come, do they beat him at the wall?
He charges out head first. He's the first one out there and just goes.
Do they win or lose right there?
I don't know, but John's there.
All right, so you haven't even like actually thought about.
Well, they have to lose
what John
because
does at the wall.
the thing is, the White Walkers have to come through, so he has.
Does he retreat? Does he
That's
retreat
why he
to
needs
Winterfell
so he can get fucking people.
No, he's not a pussy. He just charges at him and dies.
That's a waste of a fucking second life.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, that's enough of Nelson being wrong.
I haven't thought that far ahead.
Everyone in the comments, if you think Nelson is wrong, let us know.
All right, bye guys. See you next episode.
See you guys. Like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends. Night is dark and full of terrors.